So I'll count it off.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, go! 1, 2, 3, go! 1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Hello, folks. Welcome back to the rehearsal room. Nick here.
Aaron's here.
We are going to do something that we actually started off this entire gigamarole, as it were. We're going to talk about a movie. Rigmarole is actually not gigamarole.
I'm still looking at it.
I'm also still learning. We recently took in a movie that's been out for a couple months now at this point. The movie is Sinners by Ryan Coogler. It has a couple of very high-profile actors, I think.
For sure.
Just layered in depth as far as like the meaning of the symbolism,
yes.
the things talked about.
One of those ones where it just feels like you can't go wrong with thinking that means something.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally everything in the movie is something.
There's no accidents.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, this is one of those movies where if you don't pay attention, you're gonna miss what that was referencing.
And yet you could still enjoy it all on its surface without knowing a whole heck of a lot. And I think that's the true greatness of this film.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So like Ryan, do you know when the movie was released?
It came out in April of 2025.
April 2025.
Yeah. In fact, Easter weekend.
That's right.
Right. Which some people said, oh, that's interesting because somebody else came back to life on Easter weekend.
So, spoilers abound. Prepare yourselves to be spoiled.
If you haven't seen it by now, I feel bad for you.
I also feel bad, and I still have not seen it.
You got 99 problems, son.
Yeah, exactly. But a sinner ain't one. So do you want to kind of start giving us a little bit of...
Just as Nick said, Sinners came out April 2025. Written and directed by Ryan Coogler. Yeah. For his first movie, or first major film, Fruitvale Station, which he once again worked with Michael B. Jordan. Yeah. His bigger movies that most people know, Black Panther and Creed.
Yeah.
I think he's been a part of the other Creed movies, but the first one I think is the only one he actually wrote and directed. Yeah. And this, again, he wrote and directed. Once again, starring Michael B. Jordan, playing a dual role for those whom I have run into a few people who said it took them a while before they realized they were dual role. Yeah.
That was Michael C. Jordan.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was also like, well, I hope you don't see the Parent Trap. Playing Smoke and Stack.
Yeah, Elias and Elijah.
Right, which I think is, again, these are the depths in which we will be mining. Elijah and Elias, essentially the same name, really, just a different version of each, both biblical also. Which again, these are the mines in which we will be, diving into. Yeah. You have Haley Steinfeld, playing Mary. The one that really, Michael B. Jordan, I think, is amazing. But Miles Canton as Sammy.
Yes.
This kid, wow. I heard he even learned guitar for the movie.
Nice.
Yeah. Bear with me on this name. I did practice it a few times because I wanted to make sure and get it right. Winumi Mosaka as Annie.
Mosaka, yeah.
Great actor. She's amazing. Lovecraft Country. Yep. She was also in the last Deadpool movie and also in the Loki show.
Yes. Yeah.
She's definitely coming on. We have Omar Miller as Cornbread. Yep. Jamie Lawson as Perline. One of my favorites. I love this guy. That was a great one to see in there is Delroy Lindo. Fantastic actor. Yeah. Another one, look up his IMDb. It's just chock full of great movies. Worked with Spike Lee more than a few times. His performance in Malcolm X is amazing.
Also British, right?
Yeah, I found that out recently. I did not know that. He's predominantly an American actor, but he was born in England. Yeah. They eventually went to Canada. He came down to America, became an actor. He does not have an accent that you would ever pull out. Mother Jamaican, so on and so forth. Yeah, great actor. You see his name on something, you're getting something good out of that guy. I really like him a lot. Jack O'Donnell as Remick. Yep. And Lee Jun Lee as Grace, and her husband is played by a man named Yao as Bo Chow. The reason I give all these names is because it really is an ensemble cast, despite Michael B. Jordan and so forth. These people
also please to add to that.
Yes, please.
Saul Williams.
Yes. Yes.
as Sammy's father.
Yes.
That's one of Amy's favorites.
Is it? Okay.
Buddy Guy as the older version of
Yes, that was a great surprise at the end.
Yeah.
That was fantastic because as soon as you see him, you're like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is another one of those things where I don't know how many people know who that is.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yet takes nothing away, but adds something if you know who he is.
If you know who it is, it's one of those. If you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I think that's the brilliance of this movie. And the deeper you go into it, you just like it even more. Yeah. But yeah, essentially takes place in 1932. Smokestack Brothers, as they are known, come back to open up a juke joint in their town, and this is the night that it happens. And we go from there.
It does take place over a 24-hour period.
Yes.
Right off the bat, I did see a kind of a symmetry with From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, absolutely, right? For sure. Yes.
It could be two separate movies.
Yes.
There is a point where it's like, oh, okay, this is a change.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like Aaron said, it is
the influence is there though.
Yeah, for sure, and that's I think something done on purpose. I think Ryan Coogler has said on like two movies influenced him: From Dusk Till Dawn and The Faculty.
Yes,
which is another Robert Rodriguez.
Yes, which I thought was interesting. I've never seen The Faculty, so
it's like kind of like Aliens.
That's I mean I know little bits and pieces of it, so I understood the gist of it, but I was like, oh, maybe I need to see The Faculty.
So I know we're gonna jump around.
Yeah, of course.
But one of the more obvious references to The Faculty is when they are eating the garlic.
Oh, interesting that you say that because the one I got from somebody else was the Thing.
Yes. So The Thing also a big influence.
Oh, it has to be.
Just like the setting up the ambiance and like the tension in moments like that, right?
Yes.
So yeah, cool. All right. I think the juke joint is supposed to be built in Chicago, or somewhere north of where they start at because they are.
Well, no. They come back from Chicago.
You're right.
Yeah. The Stack Brothers, essentially, we get a little bit of their history is that they have left, I want to say it's Mississippi, right? Of all the things to write down, I did not write that down.
I thought they started in Mississippi and they go north somewhere.
Well, no, they stay where they are because essentially what happens is the Stack Brothers, as they explain it, which you get this on the car rides. Okay. You get little stories.
Yeah.
Essentially, Stack Brothers, their father was apparently a mean son of a bitch who beat the hell out of them.
Right.
At some point, hit Stack and knocked him out. By the time, as Stack says, by the time I woke up, Smoke was already digging the grave. They killed their father, and they said, well, we're out of here, and we're going to go to Chicago.
Right.
Now, this is obviously tied into the idea of black migration at this time. This is taking place in 1932. So it's post-World War I. We're many years past World War I, but you're in Prohibition, and the promise for African Americans at this point is going north, you get rid of Jim Crow laws, you get rid of so on and so forth. Now, they come to find out that while they may not exist in a law, doesn't mean you're necessarily kind of separate but equal, even in the North. Then what they hint at, or what you're supposed to assume is, they may have robbed from Capone and the Irish mob. Yeah, and now have gotten their money, and now they're back in town, and now they're going to try to invest in their little area and start a juke joint there.
And there are two things that kind of reference the mobs.
Yes.
One is how they dress.
Yes.
I don't know which one is which.
Stack is red.
Stack
and
is red.
Smoke wears blue.
Okay, so the blue also kind of, I guess he looks more like a street kind of thug, kind of.
That Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yes.
So that's the Irish kind of mob taking influence on the way he dresses.
Yes.
Whereas Stacks
is
in a fancy suit.
Yes.
And it is red.
And a rimmed hat.
Rimmed hat, right? So that's more Italian mob.
Absolutely.
That's who they worked for, and that's most likely who they either stole money from or acted against, right?
And you get the sense that, too, the colors even, again, the depths that you can mine is just so crazy because blue is like this cool, calm color, and that's what Smoke is. He thinks. If he moves, you better watch out because he moves deliberately.
Yeah.
Stack, he's a little bit more of a player. He's a little more, just more of the business guy, the slick guy, the guy who can do the talking. Yeah. He's got the toothpick all the time, and he's smiling all the time. He's always happy. Smoke doesn't crack a smile no matter what you do to him.
Right.
And those colors are interesting because he's a little more exciting, whereas Smoke's a little more blue. He's a little more calm, in those ways. Again, these little touches, like I said, I don't think you can go wrong in digging any of this. I think Coogler does all of this. But yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
So then they go down to where Sammy lives, and Sammy comes from a very religious family.
Yes.
In fact, the movie, when it starts off, is Sammy basically coming back after the events of the movie.
I love when a movie does that.
Yeah, totally. It starts at the end, basically.
Basically, yes.
And when it starts off, Sammy's all bloodied up. He's holding the neck and I think the headpiece of a guitar.
Yep.
And his father, who is played by Saul Williams, is a priest, a minister.
Yes.
Right. And so there's already a lot of visual references to obviously the Father, the Son, and the Church being the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
There's the Trinity, the three crosses.
Yes.
There's even a Wakanda Forever reference in this scene.
They say the beams crossing
make
were
the W.
purposely done to give a nod to Wakanda. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean this whole movie. And then,
there's not a nail put into anything that wasn't on purpose.
that wasn't on purpose. Yeah. Right. So so then we go into the story itself about how Sammy is given this guitar by his cousins, basically. Right?
Yes.
Which is Smoke and Stack.
Right.
And they at first kind of lied to him about the origin of the guitar.
Yes. They tell him from a I did write it down. I can't remember now, but a very popular blues man at the time.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Like Charles something.
Yeah, I did write it down. I did, because he is obviously also an inspiration in the story, the way Robert Johnson is also.
Right. Yeah, and I think I don't know necessarily that Sammy was the Robert Johnston character. I think the guy before him, who the guitar supposedly came from, might have been like the placeholder for Robert Johnston, because Sammy then, when he gets the guitar, he becomes imbued, or whatever the word is, with the gift of the song, right?
Yeah, I think there's pictures that you can see of him when he's wearing his hat and so on and so forth. That if you, I showed some people that didn't know who Robert Johnson was, but I was just like, here's a picture of Robert, and they'd be like, oh wow, it's like, yeah, like visually, again, we all know now, certainly now with time and actual looking into it, the whole Robert Johnson soul to the devil thing is in no way, shape, or form even true. It's actually another blues guy that was actually talked about, and so on and so forth. But they're referencing all of that. I mean, the idea that his father thinks the devil, you keep dancing with the devil, and eventually he's going to follow you home. He's going to
follow you home.
This idea that this music is of the devil, especially from a religious aspect.
Right.
The idea that, Robert Johnson and others do sing of the devil, the crossroads, so on and so forth. So it's all there. It's the blues in general, but it is.
Here's a weird side note.
Yeah.
A while back, I was really heavily into looking up the whole Robert Johnston, the story of. One of the theories was that he knew how to play guitar the whole time and just made up the story.
It's
like he came back. He came up the one time and played horribly, and people were like, "Oh, this guy sucks." Took a week off, whatever, and he's the one who himself said, "Well, I made a deal with the devil,
right?
And this is how good I am now." And so he,
no, and now we even know. It's funny that you say. I just was listening to a podcast that actually talked about this, where it's like what ended up really happening was the fact that there were plantations in which there were these great bluesmen that played. Mm-hmm. He would live there from time to time to learn from these guys, and nobody can really remember that he showed up and he sucked.
Right.
But he definitely showed up one day and was like, "Whoo, who's the new kid?"
Right.
And again, and remember, these are back in the day when you could tell any story.
Oh yeah,
no one who could check. How could anyone know?
Internet.
Yeah. And again, all of this plays into this idea of, at that time, even for African Americans, they saw the blues as, for some, the religious ones, saw this as devil music. To sing anything other than something to the Lord was against God. So why do that? Another one of these choices that Sammy's father is essentially asking him to make.
Yeah. So when the cousins pick him up, is that when they start looking for the other blues musicians? Or,
yes.
Or do they go straight to the place?
No, this is where so once they leave there, this is when they go pick up the truck. Because they have to split up.
Right.
Because ultimately, like you said, because prior to that, they had bought the juke joint from this guy, and he pretty much said, the guy showed up late and made us late, so now we got to split up.
Right.
So Smoke takes the truck that has all this, that has the guns and some of the supplies.
Yeah.
Stack takes the blues kid, and they're gonna essentially This is the part where you're like, now we got to get the plan together. You know, we're going to pick up the team. We're going to pick up the stuff. You know what I mean?
Preparation montage.
Absolutely. It really is kind of cool in that way. Like, you know, the movie, it's like there's these stops and starts in it that are really cool. Like, here's the next start. Now we got to assemble the team. You know, Avengers assemble. Here we go. You go get the people. I'm going to go get the stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and these are happening simultaneously.
Simultaneously, yeah. So I forget who the first musician they get is.
I believe it's Delta Slim.
Delta Slim.
Yeah,
so
stacking them.
He's the one who's been kind of drinking, right? Has a huge drinking problem.
Yes. He loves his corn liquor.
Corn liquor. Yeah, and I think he gets like either tempted by is it the wine or the Irish?
It's the Irish beer.
The Irish beer.
Yes.
Right.
Because again, this is the last year of Prohibition.
Right.
So, you know, America's already kind of fallen out of it anyway, but to get this sort of stuff, and again, another reference, remember the stuff they bring with them, Irish beer and Italian wine.
Yeah.
Again, yes. So he tries to get him, he tries to recruit him. Says, hey, man, look, I'm going to pay you $20. You come play our juke joint. And he's like, you can kiss my ass because I make money with all the drinks I can get at the place I'm already at. And you ain't going to be around long enough anyway. You know, what do I care? And he's like, all right, cool. Well, how about this Irish beer that you can come drink all? And he's like, now you got me thinking.
Yeah.
Delroy Lindo, again, it just from the moment he's on the screen, I'm locked. He's so good, man.
And then who's the next up?
Now, after that, this is where they're still at the train station. So he starts to play a little bit because they're trying to trump up a little, hey, everybody.
Oh, that's right.
Prior to that is when he meets Mary. Now, the cousin, Sammy, does not know who Mary is.
Right.
Because he was very young when all this went down. Now, we're meeting Mary, too, who, for all intent and purposes, is a white woman who is now seen Stack and is like, she knows him. You realize, well, she seems to know Stack.
She knows
and Stack
him
is
biblically.
As she lets him know.
Oh, yeah. She lets all of us know.
Yes, she does. Yeah. But more importantly, Stack's just like, okay, don't even look at her. And the guy's like, well, and again, this is also, remember, this is taking place in the South in 1930s. Right. His cousin is like, dude, there is a white woman staring at you, dude. Like, we need to get the hell out of here or something's going on.
Yeah.
When he looks and sees who it is, he's just like, okay, don't even stare back. And he's just like, but dude, we could, and he's like, I got this. You know, Mary sees him and essentially is just like, hey, where the fuck have you been, dude?
Right.
You know, she lets him know, my mother has died. You find out this is a person who took care of them.
Yeah.
You know, you also come to find out she is of mixed race.
Right. She's like a quarter black.
Her father's wife or father's grandmother, something like that. She does say, and I do forget. So she is known in their world, in a sense, as a passable person.
Right.
She can kind of float through both because she does know them. They are friends. But they, of course, have to be cautious because they are being seen talking to a white woman in public. And that is, especially in this time, that could be death.
It's still not an acceptable thing.
No, not at all. And in the meantime, they meet, then they start to play, trump up some, get some stuff, people excited about, hey, our juke joint's going to be here this time. And that's when we meet Perline. That Sammy has an eye for.
Yes. I kind of mix up these parts.
Please.
So do you have like the details with the meeting of Perline? Because I forget exactly what she says to Sammy to get him.
Well, Sammy goes to her.
That's right.
Kid's got some game. He goes to her and it's
right.
pretty much just like, hey, I've seen you around. I know you can sing. Maybe you come out and maybe you sing.
Right.
And she tells him that, by the way, I'm married. And he says, happily? And she says, you better watch it, boy, something like that. And, walks away, and he's definitely staring at her. He's very happy to see. She's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
So they're he's hoping she shows up because he's got something for her. Because, again, this movie's very sexual in a lot of ways.
It's a very sexual movie, and I think also that's something that turned people off.
Interesting,
because I did see people complaining that it was overtly sexual. Which, if we look back at our Nosferatu thing,
sure,
Nosferatu was.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say just as.
No.
I think what it is though, it's obviously the sexuality of black people on screen.
I think you're onto something for sure. For sure.
And I think that maybe bothered folks.
Well, especially as what's the word I want to? The inhibition of it. Was
Yes.
definitely. I mean,
100% yes.
when he goes down on her in the place, I mean,
Yeah.
he just straight. I mean, they're having a discussion where he's telling her, it's like licking ice cream. You got to find that little button, And
As
then-
we were taught.
Yeah,
right?
you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
wow. And someone's having an adult conversation here.
Yeah, yeah. I also, vampires are already kind of a sexual creature.
Right.
But all the times that they're being physical, they're not vampires.
Good point.
Right?
No,
They
great.
don't leave the sexuality to the vampires. It's the person.
But it's
right?
always a seduction, right?
It is.
Which again plays part in most of this movie, vampire or otherwise. There's
Right.
a seduction. There's always something
yes.
outside of whatever you're doing that is trying to seduce you into doing something else.
Right, right.
And I think there's definitely that. That's a great point, though. You're absolutely right. Yeah, but yeah, again, he definitely has an eye for this woman and is really hoping she shows up.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think after her, that's when Cornbread comes into the picture.
I think after that, I mean, again, we're cutting back and forth. This is now when we go to see Smoke. Smoke is now coming to town, and he's there to get
right.
surprise.
Oh, right. That's when he leaves the truck.
Yes, great
Yes.
scene where he,
Yes.
this is a guy who you very much get the sense of he's about his community. He wants to always try to better it. He wants to make things a little bit better. He stops the truck, sees this little girl. He says, "Hey, come here for a second." And he says, "Hey, you know how to use this horn?" She says, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, anybody comes over here, da-da-da-da-da." He goes, "You know math?" She says, "Yeah, I can do math." He goes, "Okay, you know time?" Yeah. He goes, "Okay, I'm going to pay you 10 cents for every minute you sit in this car. We good?" She goes, "Okay." He goes, No, we ain't good. You need to negotiate.
Yeah.
Because if I'm offering a price, you need to find a better one." And he gets her to, and eventually they settle. I think it's like, 12 cents or something like
I
that.
thought it was 20.
20, yes, because she goes 50,
Yes.
which was great. I thought that was like, damn, girl. But she goes 50 and he goes 20, boom, they agree. So she sits in the truck. Now he goes over, and again, I love when movies do this part too, where, I can learn something too. This is something before this movie, I did not know this sort of thing existed. I watched I think PBS did a little thing where I watched that. That was very interesting. So he goes into what is essentially an Asian market. Now, the town is divided. You can clearly tell. There's a white side and a black side of this town.
Yes.
But the Asian market is an Asian person running it, and he goes in. They seem to know him. How you been? Welcome back. Da-da-da-da. Tells a little bit of his history, what he's been up to, and then says, I want to buy this. I need to do that, so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, the horn starts honking. And he goes, uh-oh, somebody's, he walks out, and these two dudes, she said, "I told him to get out of your truck." And he goes, "I got this." And he just shoots that dude right in his ass.
In his ass, and then the other one in the knee. Right?
Which is great because he tells him, he's like, "What did you do that for?" He says, "I can't have people walking around saying they almost stole from me."
Yeah, exactly.
Without getting
Stole from
something,
us,
So, he goes back in. Now, what you learn is, and again, this is historically accurate.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because racism is stupid, Asians were somehow allowed in the South to exist between two worlds.
Right.
So they ran a market that catered only to black people and then ran another market that catered only to white people and yet went both sides. There's a great one shot that, as they call it, where the daughter goes over to get her mom, then the camera follows her back across the street, and you realize.
You see the neighborhoods too, right?
Oh.
Like it's like where the mom is at. It's very well-to-do.
Absolutely.
Everything's
Very
cleaner.
clean and just,
then when you go across the street,
a little shabbier.
stuff is boarded up, right?
But also interesting, one of the, I don't know if, again, because I know you get the audio description.
Yeah.
When he pulls in, there's actually a restaurant called Hot Tamale.
Oh, yes.
Did you mention that? I thought that was interesting.
And they were saying one of the things is that because there were so many, Latino Mexican workers, one of the quickest things you can make to eat is just a grip of tamales.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so while there's historical accuracy with the
Asian market
store owners, also with the tamales.
Okay, cool. I mean, again, I knew it wasn't an accident it was there, but I just thought, again, it's where they want you to see it. They want you to see this.
Of course.
Yeah. So, he gets all his supplies, once again, negotiating with Grace, who clearly, as she wears the pants of that family, for sure, gets her to make a sign and buys all those supplies.
Yep.
Tells her, "Look, man, we got to get all this together because we're opening tonight, and I need your guys' help." They're like, "Absolutely no problem." They have great history with the Stack brothers.
Right. And also, she points out, hey, there's two bleeding people outside.
Yeah.
And he comes out and gives them money.
Yeah, he pays
to get help.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. He's like, "Look,
clean
man,
themselves up."
I don't need them dying. Here's some money, and get them fixed up. Which I also love because I think if you look closely, it looks like he gave him two $10 bills.
Yeah.
Which I think, wow,
a lot of money. Because you also find out, and this, I'm
Please.
gonna just
No,
kind of skip a bit. when people are paying to go into the juke joint, they're paying with wooden coins.
Yes, we get to that because again, this is again historically accurate. Where we're talking about these are people that are now again freed slaves that are now working on plantations that essentially pay them to work on the plantations they used to work for free.
Right.
But of course, because they don't really want to pay them, they give them essentially the same way they did it to miners in like West Virginia and so on and so forth. You would get not paid, you get paid in these papers that you could only go to the mine store and buy stuff from the mine
tokens,
store.
exactly. Good for use only in these places.
Exactly. A way to, once again, hobble people, keep them in an area where they couldn't go elsewhere. You know?
Also, another detail in the two stores.
Please.
The candy on the shelves, as it was being described to me, in the, on the I guess the poorer side, basically the black side of town, the candy's all hard candy.
Yes, I heard this one too.
And in the other store, it's like poofy desserts and cakes and shit like that. Yeah, so
which is those little details, right?
Yes.
Like this is just
100.
like I said, you can watch this movie 1,000 times and probably not catch half of this shit and still enjoy it. But when you notice these little things, you just go like, the attention to detail. You just appreciate that so much, So from there, I believe we get to meet Annie. Smoke goes to meet Annie. When we first see Smoke, he shows up and it looks like a gravesite at this small little kind of shanty house that he goes to. We find out that he and Annie had once had a relationship and more importantly had a daughter who ended up passing away at a very young age. This is trauma that still haunts Smoke and her and clearly affected their relationship. They love each other, but to be together is a reminder of what had happened.
Right.
And I think that you get that very clear. Another thing that's very interesting, and again, one of these things I definitely learned thanks to this movie, was she practices what's called hoodoo.
Hoodoo, yes.
Essentially a voodoo, witchcrafty kind of...
If people know voodoo, hoodoo is kind of like the more pure version of it. Yeah.
I mean,
it deals with saints and stuff like that.
Okay.
And with charms and potions and stuff like this.
And this, speaking of potion, this is when we find out she has given him what she calls a mojo bag.
Yeah.
That she believes is what kept his ass alive in World War I.
Right.
And has kept him alive from now on, which he then replies, how come we couldn't help our baby?
Right.
And again, it's very clear they love each other, but the loss of that child has unfortunately done a number on their relationship.
Right.
But he tells her nonetheless, I need you there. I need you there to cook. We really need you. She, no problem.
And Annie is also Asian, right?
No. That's the. I practiced it again. I just want to make sure because it is.
I know it was the store owner.
No. That's that one's Grace.
Grace, yeah.
Annie is the one to play by Wanumi Mosaka.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was like Filipino.
No, I believe she's. Oh God, she's not American. I know that.
Okay.
I think she. Obviously her relatives come from. I believe maybe an African country, but I think she immigrated to England.
Okay.
Because I saw something where she had an accent. It sounded English. I was like, wow, is anybody in this?
Is anybody actually from?
Well, I mean, Michael B, I guess, and his brother Michael C. But which, by the way, like I don't think that gets talked about enough. Is you do not like. I mean, you realize it's the same guy,
right?
But when you start to realize, like, you understand every shot they're in together has to be filmed twice.
Twice, yeah.
It never feels like that.
And they hired
essentially a body double, yeah.
Well, they hired the twins.
Oh yes,
to kind of give
consultants.
them consultants, yes.
Yeah,
a pair of twins. They got consulted and like, all right, well, you're gonna do this, and now you're gonna stand here and like act this way. Or
yeah,
whatever.
how one is dominant in certain areas where others.
Yes.
That whole psychology of it is very interesting.
Yeah.
But like. Michael B does such a great job because they are both so distinct. Within a few minutes, you know who each one of them is.
He gives each one such characters
that
like they on their own stand.
Yeah.
Right? And like obviously I can't see,
I hear
so
you.
like
Sure.
Hearing them both talk, especially one after the other,
yes,
and kind of just go in between each other. And
Absolutely.
I was like, wow, this is such a fucking great job.
It really is.
Yeah.
I know the movie's getting a lot of praise, and rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
I just think, wow, man, that's not hard. That's not easy to pull off.
Yeah.
To make them so distinctive.
Yes.
Like if obviously you did to a degree. If I closed my eyes, I could tell them apart. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we talked about it before, the blue and the red. Well, once we get into the movie, it's not blue and red anymore.
Right.
But you still can tell them apart.
Yeah.
You know, just the way they act, and it's just like a brilliant performance by him. I mean, everybody in it's very good. But, so now with Annie, now we got cut back to our guys, which actually is another great scene that I really liked. They're coming back, and now Delroy Lindo, they're passing a chain gang.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And, he tells them, slow down. And hey, keep strong. You guys are going to be all right. Everything's going to be good. And Sammy, of course, is kind of confused. He's like, do you know them? And he's like, I know every one of them. And he says, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I don't know them, but I know them because I understand what's going on here.
Right. Yeah.
And he tells this story, which, again, is this particular story may not have happened in history, but something like it very much happened, I'm sure, which was he talks about how a friend of his and him got arrested by some cops, found out they could play music. They decided, we're going to take you around and we're going to make you some money. You're going to play for white folk and they're going to love you. And they did. And they made some money. And then they decided, well, now we're going to take my money and take off. Well, his friend goes and buys a train ticket. And while he does, the train conductor thinks, well, there's no way a black man could possibly have that kind of money. So they lynch him because they think he must have stole it from a white man. And they kill his friend. And this sticks with him because he understands, like, this is the life where you have to live down here.
Right.
And that kind of opens Sammy's eyes up a little bit, too. Maybe even a reason why he wants even more so to go to Chicago towards the end of that, In the meantime, that's when they pull up to Cornbread and they pick him up.
Right.
And that is a fantastic
That whole scene
is so good.
It's good because Cornbread is apparently under the very strict control of his wife.
Oh, yes.
Right? And is it Stax, right? He's
Stax,
the one
yes.
with Sam.
Yes.
They're trying to find out what it's going to take for Cornbread to join basically the band.
Right. There it is, right?
And he even lets them know, he's like, you got to show her the money.
Yeah.
And when they do, she kind of calms down a bit. She's like, well, how much you got? Right?
And Cornbread ain't no small guy. This is a big dude.
Big dude, yeah.
And he starts mouthing off to Cornbread and just like, hey, man, my wife is here, dude. And he's just like, yeah, well, maybe she'll let you go when I tell her how much money you're going to make. And he's like, I am going to knock the black off your ass. And she goes, hold up, how much money?
Yeah.
And he says, and he tells him, now that's a good woman right there. Right. And he just tells her how much. She's like, he can go.
Yeah.
And off they go.
And the band is on their way to the juke joint.
Yep.
And there's also like an incident at the building of the juke where they're going to have the juke joint, right?
Well, initially when they buy it, this guy shows up. He makes sure his pistol is shown, which does not intimidate the brothers in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
They're looking at the floor. He says it's a sawmill. And they're looking at the floor and they're clean. And he says, hey, you guys clean this floor? Like, well, what the hell was on the floor that you had to clean it?
Yeah.
And he don't speak. He spits on the floor.
Right.
So you do get the sense of like something doesn't feel on the up and up at this place. And what's it going to be? Well, we'll soon find out for sure.
Yeah. So he also gets threatened like by one of the brothers. That's when they tell him like if you step out on our property, you and the clan, you're all gonna get shot down.
I'm gonna kill every one of you motherfuckers. And he tries to, oh hell, the clan don't even exist no more.
Right.
Motherfucker, my ass.
So after they get Cornbread, is this where they cut to
Remick?
To Remick,
I believe so. Let me check because I want to be.
Yeah,
I know we're
bouncing.
Sure. I know we're doing some bouncing, but I do want to make absolutely sure, just because I kind of wrote a timeline just to kind of keep us on. Yes. This is another thing I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
Annie never calls him Smoke. She
right.
always calls him Elijah.
Yeah.
Always, and I love that. She doesn't play his game, and he doesn't. And he's cool with it.
Right.
She calls him Elijah every time.
Yeah.
And it's that deep love, and even points out, I see you still got your mojo bag, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yes, from there we get to meet Remick, who seemingly drops out of the sky, smoking and looking like he's burning. As though his flesh is bubbling and peeling off of his body.
Right.
And goes running up to this little shack. And the door is answered by 2 white people with shotguns ready to kill him.
A man and a woman, right?
Man and a woman.
Man and a woman. And then I think he tells them that there are
He says he uses a word I will not use, but essentially Choctaw Indians have attacked his family. I know, I'm weak. Oh, please help me out. Oh, right. It doesn't seem to be working. Then he looks back and sees a Klan uniform. And he says, hey, I got some money, and hands him 2 gold coins and says, if you could just help me out, I really could use that. And oh boy, do they, no problem there. Yeah. Now, the irony of this is, as soon as they let him in, by the way, then you see the Choctaw Indians, they show up. 2 guys on horseback, group in a vehicle.
Right, the guy in the truck.
Guy gets out of the truck and he goes up to the thing. As he's doing it, there's buzzards circling.
That's right, 3 buzzards. Right?
Yep. Yeah, 3. Once again, they're circling the house. He knocks on the door and he's greeted by the woman now holding a gun to him.
Yeah,
and he essentially tells her, like, lady, look, I don't know I know who showed up, and if you let him inside, God help you. We can help you if you'd let us inside. Now, what I thought was interesting about this, and I'm not accidental.
Right.
When the white guy who's smoking and his flesh is on fire, but shows you 2 gold coins, well, come right on in, no problem.
Yeah.
But when the Choctaw Indian man shows up to say, hey, I'd like to help and save you, take a hike, pal.
Yep.
Now, before she can even say anything, his buddy lets him know that sun is setting and we need to get the fuck out of here right now.
Yep.
Now, what is set up also in the very beginning, this is what they talk about, interestingly enough, 3 different types of people that their music is used in ways, they believed in ways that could conjure up the spirits. The Irish, the Choctaw, and the African Americans. Mainly, I think I want to say the West Indian kind of thing, right?
West Africa.
West Africa, sorry, okay. Yes. So they allude to the fact that these cultures used music in their original cultures to conjure the spirits from the past and the future. They could do this.
Right.
The Choctaw Indians were also known as vampire hunters. This is in their lore. Something also interesting I found out was, you go, wow, talk about learning history. I love it. The Choctaw Indians actually gave money to Ireland during the potato famine.
Yes, and I forget what the amount was.
It was almost $5,000 in today's money. It was only like a couple hundred, which sounds like nothing, but it's like $5,000.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is after the Trail of Tears and so on and so forth, what America did to them. And yet they found a connection. To this day, there's actually a statue in Ireland that, like an art piece, that is a connection between the Choctaw Indians and Ireland, which is like, whoa, how have I never learned that? Right. You know what I mean? Right. So that was really cool. So we already are seeing these 3 cultures are already connected before we even start this thing in a weird way. So the idea that what is ostensibly a vampire who seems to go between Irish and Southern accent whenever it suits him, shows up to what is essentially 2 Klan member racist pieces of shit and offers them gold, they got no problem, like I say. And yet the Choctaw Indian, who's there to actually help them, doesn't give a shit, white or whatever. Right. He knows what's in that house, and he knows what it's going to do to them. And we're here to help. They don't want nothing to do with it. Yeah. So they take the fuck off. They're just like, hey, you're on your own, lady.
Like, fuck it.
Yep.
This is what you wanted. All right.
Honky don't want the help. Honky don't get the help, So fuck them, She goes down the hall calling for her husband and realizes it's awfully dark in here. And when she rounds that corner, there's Remick sitting there with blood all over his face. Yeah. And she looks at her husband. He goes, oh, no. He just resting. He gets right up.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, shit, here we go.
Yes. And this is the turn.
Yes.
Right? This is the vampiric turn.
Absolutely.
So I think they go back to the juke joint after this, right?
Yes. Yes.
And are they prepping the place up?
When you get there, you at this point, no. I think you're starting to see people are coming in.
People are coming in.
Yeah,
and they're already been set in place.
Absolutely, and the music's kind of playing. It's mainly Delta on the piano is doing his thing.
Right.
People are dancing. You're getting some card games going. You're getting some craps. They got some gambling going on too.
Yeah, and they tell. I forget who's manning the door.
It's what's his name? God damn it.
Cornbread,
because
he's the biggest.
Oh, he's big. Yeah, like that dude looks like he played fucking offensive line for about.
I believe they tell him something like, if they're not invited in, don't let them in or something.
To that degree. I mean,
degree,
he's there
right?
to make sure, like there's even that great part where he's letting people in. Come on in. Oh, absolutely, come on in. And then the dude shows up. Where's my $2?
Yes,
And the guy's
exactly.
Like, wait, what? And he grabs him by the throat and it cuts, you know. But yeah, party's going. Things are going well. And again, a lot of cuts. There's these interspersing of things going on.
Yeah.
Because now Mary shows up. And Cornbread is like, oh, ma'am, I think you're in the wrong place. I don't know. And she's just like, are you serious, Cornbread? And he goes, whoa, Mary? Holy shit. He'd seen her since she was young.
Right.
So he's like, come on in. Well, as soon as Sammy sees her, he's like, uh-oh, I better keep her away from Stax. And she's just like, just come with me. Let's go get some whiskey. I don't give a fuck about either one of those guys.
Right.
They're not driving me out of here. I don't give a shit.
Right.
She's a strong, independent woman. She does not give a shit.
Yeah.
But she very much loves Stax.
Right.
Very much so. And what you come to find out is they have a little discussion. Stax very much loves her too.
Yes.
But he felt he had to in order to protect her. She's
her,
mad that
yeah.
they didn't show up to the funeral.
But he did say he sent flowers.
Absolutely.
Right?
Through her entire life. Because what you find out is her mother nursed them when they were very young. She was essentially like a wet nurse.
Right.
So
right.
she, they are connected in a lot of ways. They very much loved her mother. But as he keeps trying to make her understand, because her being a white woman and them being black, and we're talking the South, and especially in America, he's trying to make her understand, if I had shown up to your mother's funeral, who, by the way, nobody knew your mother was half black, people are going to start talking. People are going to start saying, what the hell's going on? How are they here? And he's trying, essentially, as he says to her, I tried to protect you.
Right.
Please.
And there is a little bit of like stubbornness on her part.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Maybe a little bit of like naivete where like she maybe doesn't understand the full consequences of her being there.
Oh, not at all.
Like she basically she's got blinders on.
Yes.
And wants to be there for the sake of being, maybe not so much for the sake of being there, but like to be included.
Yeah, because
and that's something that comes up more.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And again, she look, these people love her. They care about her.
Yeah.
They want her there.
Right.
It's just to say they know the trouble that could come with.
Right. Exactly.
And more importantly, she doesn't understand this, as you're saying, because she is, as they say in the movie, and was the phrase at that time, passable.
Right.
She can pass between both groups, black and white, in a place where they are separate at all times.
Yeah.
So because of this, she doesn't fully, you're right, catch the weight of what he's trying to say. Do you understand? Somebody comes in here and sees you here. Do you have any idea what could happen?
Well, even starting with the mother's funeral. Somebody sees us at your mother's funeral.
Absolutely.
Questions are going to get asked.
Absolutely.
Right?
What do they have a connection with her for?
Right,
this is real life too. I remember hearing a story from Jerry Lee Lewis talking about there was this great juke joint that he loved to go to as a kid because the piano player was so amazing. Yeah. And the guy who owned it was it's a black juke joint. The guy who owned it would grab his ass all the time and toss him out and be like, "Do you have any idea what would happen if someone came in here and found a 14-year-old white boy in my juke joint?"
Yeah.
Like, you got to stay away, man. Like, this is real shit. So, but again, how you live your life and where your status is, especially in the South at this time, is going to dictate how you see everything.
Totally. Yeah.
She doesn't quite get it. And I do believe, to a degree, blinded by love. She very much loves Stax.
Sure. Yeah.
And she doesn't see why they can't be together. And that's because she's never had to
face.
face.
I think with her, that kind of makes her that complicated character.
Oh, for sure.
It is love. It is stubbornness.
It is
because she doesn't want to get turned away.
Yeah, absolutely.
The desire to be included in something, belong to something.
For sure.
Yeah. So like,
and her maybe even feeling like she's pulled in two different directions.
Yes.
I'm not fully white. I'm not fully black. That could be a little bit of it too.
Definitely,
absolutely.
Yeah. And is this where Remick and company come in now?
So now what we get to is now we listen to Sammy play. We've already got a taste
the first
of it
time
in the
Sammy
car.
plays. Yes.
Sammy starts to play in the car, and Stax loses his shit. Like, I had no idea you gotten this good.
Right.
So right before this is that beautiful part where Delroy Lindo lets him know. And these are parts that really touched me.
Yeah.
The blues is something we brought here. It ain't like the religion they forced on us.
Right.
This is our culture. We brought this. So when you play the blues, understand what this is going to do to the people. This is our freedom. These are the things that we give to each other, that our music can transcend, if you will.
Yep.
So Sammy understands this, and he's like, okay, let's do this. He starts to play. In that moment, what you see is the thing they alluded to at the very beginning, that music in certain cultures cannot just be music. It can call upon the ancestors, past, present,
and your
and future.
descendants as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah.
Now, He starts to play, and the place goes wild.
It goes ape shit, yeah.
And what's really neat is you start to all of a sudden note, like, wait, that guy looks like he's from Parliament Funkadelics. What's he doing here with an electric guitar? Hey, that's a B-boy. He looks like LL Cool J. That guy looks like he's in Run DMC. That girl's twerking.
Yeah,
those
so
are South African dancers. What's going on here?
Every iteration of a reference to like the past and the present and the future, was descendants and anti-descendants,
absolutely,
of the people on screen.
Well,
because at one point they do go with Grace, I think.
Yes,
it is.
Grace and her husband, both.
And they show, I believe it was it references the Monkey King.
Yes, it does.
Right. So
and there are other Asian dancers going on there too.
Yeah. So like it was
but
cool.
Did you notice this? Because I won't pretend I did. I saw this in something else.
Yeah.
The only ones that you see their past and their future are the characters that live.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So Sammy's the only one you see the future.
Right.
You never see Grace's future. You never see Bo's future.
Right.
It's only Sammy's future, which I did not notice that the first time. And I thought, because I do remember thinking to myself, well, it's only the older Asian stuff. How come they don't have any new, now I understand. Like, oh, those little twists
things,
are just amazing. And as he's playing, as people are losing their inhibitions, as people are almost, if you will, entranced by his music.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, the roof becomes
on fire. The roof is on fire. Yeah.
The whole place burns to the ground, if you will. It's a weird shot of where everyone is, standing and sitting or dancing, and he's playing. Even Cornbread literally sitting on a stool at the edge of the door, like he's still waiting for people to come in. But there's nothing there. There's no structure. It's burned to the ground. And as they pan out, there's Remick with the two people.
So one other thing about that scene.
Yes.
With the whole Sinners title of the movie, it almost looked like that's literally the entrance to hell also.
I think you definitely are onto something, because I think, again, what they are doing according to his father is sinful.
Right.
He tells them, you're going to go there, you're going to play that devil music, those people are going to sweat on each other and do all that fornicating. And it's just like, everything they're doing is sin.
Yes. Yeah.
According to some.
Right. But then also you have the vampires who are literally killing people, and therefore they are also the sinners unto God, right?
And I mean, look, Smoke and Stack are not heroes. These are not good dudes. These are bad men, and they will show you they're bad men. They don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? They're in it for money. This is about cash for them. So it's just to say, the idea of sinners, well, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
We're all sinning to some
sinners.
degree. In somebody's eyes, we're all sinning.
That's right.
Some would even say even the preacher.
Yeah.
His use of religion to take people away.
Yep.
And maybe we'll get into this more as we go along, but like this idea of belonging, a cult, whatever it may be.
Yep.
You get a lot of that in this,
Yes,
So Remick sees them, sees the party, and he shows up, and they come to the door.
With the husband and wife.
Yes.
Right? And they've already turned. He comes up to Cornbread, and I think he offers him money at first, right?
Well, at first he's like, you are definitely at the wrong place, bro.
That's right.
You guys can need to turn around. Appreciate it, but nah. You are way white and we are not. You need to turn around. But he's like, oh, bro, dude, no. We love the music. Yeah. And again, he has ultimately been summoned by the music, in literal sense.
Yes.
So he's just like, well, here, why don't we just play a little something for you? They play an interesting song called Pickin' Robin Dead.
Pickin' Robin Clean.
Clean, there it is. Which I thought was an interesting, maybe there's something else to it. I don't know. I didn't look up the song. But I just thought we're picking Robin clean. We're picking, picking him clean.
Yeah.
Taking everything
that
from
definitely
him.
has something to do with it.
Right?
Because I did listen to something where they were like, even that choice of music, they want to go in there and take literally everything from everybody
Absolutely.
inside that,
Absolutely.
which includes, and he alludes to this
later
on, he says, give me your music.
Oh, yeah, right? Yes. We get to a point where he's like, I want that. And again, interesting because we all know what they are ultimately talking about. We're talking about cultural appropriation.
Yes.
To use vampires as cultural appropriators.
That's the thing.
The idea that they suck out your blood and your soul, like that is fucking genius.
I did read something as well where it's like the three cultures are already somewhat linked, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that Remick as the vampire, he is an Irishman. Right?
Yes.
Like he is an Irish person.
Yes.
He's even said like I've lived for like 1,000
Yes.
years because my land was also taken from me.
Absolutely.
So, but in effect, he becomes, like you said, the appropriator, basically the gentrificator, the colonizer,
Absolutely.
as it were, right?
Absolutely.
And it's oblivious to him because all he wants is the music. He doesn't see his place here as a white person
No.
taking from black culture.
Because he doesn't even see, if you think about it, he's not a white person.
Right.
He's
right.
seen visually, he is a white person.
Yes.
He's a vampire.
Right,
All
right.
I want is, I'm trying to take everything from
Yes,
you.
yes.
You know? And I'm not interested in the color of your skin. Like, there is that part where he tells them, we get a little later on, where he's just like, this is freedom, everybody. You don't have freedom as a black
Right,
man in this.
right.
I can offer, look at us, all our culture, all our, we're all together here.
Yeah, because
I
they share
like a hive
minds,
mind.
A hive mind. Yeah, yeah.
Like he's like, I'm not judging. I don't care about the color of your skin.
Right,
I'm not
right.
interested in any of that. I just want us to live in kumbaya here,
Right,
kind of thing, you know? But yeah, no. They play, and essentially the rest of them come to the door, and they're just like, yeah, I don't think so. And that's when he brings out some, hey, I got money to spend, and, we just want to play.
Right,
And they're just
that's
like,
right.
nah, we're good. And when they leave, that's when Stack and Smoke are like, well, dude, what the fuck, bro? He's got some money, And he's just like, yeah. And that white man comes in here, someone steps on his toes, then what?
Yep.
Like, nah, man, it ain't worth that. It just isn't worth that. And again, they have, this is something that they, as black men in the South, have to be thinking of all the time.
Yes.
Even if these people were innocent and truly did love the music and just wanted to share theirs with everyone else, it doesn't matter. If something goes down, they will always be blamed for it.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to happen, So now they tell him, no problem. We're going to walk on home, but we're going to go real slow in case you change your mind.
Change your mind. Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I thought was great. We already get the glowing red eyes from
Yes,
Remick.
from
He's fantastic. And another one of those very subtle, very sinister kind of characters that just oozes evil the entire time he's on the screen,
Yeah. He was really good.
Oh, fantastic. And now we get to the point where they're talking about the fact of, what is this wooden nickel shit?
Right.
Which, again, now we get to really see the difference in the Smoke and the Stack. Smoke is pissed.
Right.
I didn't come here for wooden nickels.
Yeah.
And Stack is like, dude, you have to understand who these people are. We ain't in Chicago no more, man.
Right.
And he's just like, I don't give a shit, dude. Like he tells him at one point, when you were in Chicago doing whores, did you ever take something on a waiver? And he's like, hell no. And then Annie looks at him like, you motherfucker. And he's just like, oh yeah, well still, this is different. Now this leads to, essentially, what's her name? Mary. Again, trying to help because she does care. She does want, and she knows I can pass.
Yeah.
She goes to them and says, hey, maybe I can talk to him.
Right.
Let me go feel him out. They'll say stuff to me they won't say to you.
Right.
Ultimately. And that's not untrue. That's not untrue at all.
Yep.
But of course she's also assuming something about them that isn't true. It's not her talking to white people. These are vampires. They don't
Yes.
give a shit about
Right.
her color.
Right.
So yeah, she goes out to speak to them and say, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And right away, they're like, oh, hey, everything's cool. We just want to play. And then he starts telling her about, I do have money, but it won't help the pain in your heart. And she's just like, wait, what? She's like, oh, your mother dying. Oh, man. And she's like freaking out now. And the other part is, this is when you see the drool coming out of his mouth.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's animalistic in the literal sense. He's drooling. He's
Yeah.
seeing her for just simply flesh.
A
and nothing.
piece of meat. Yeah.
Absolutely. And he kind of comes at her. She freaks out, pulls her gun, and just like, all right, I'm going back inside. Y'all can fuck off. Like, I don't want nothing to do with you. And it's that fantastic scene that she's walking away, and you see him stand up from the log, and he takes one step, and you just see him fly up in the air.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to, they're inside. I think they're having a discussion. Now it cuts back to Cornbread at the door. And she's like, hey there, Cornbread. And he's like, hey, where the hell did you go? She's like, hey, whatever. You going to let me in or not? And you're going, uh-oh. No, something ain't right. Something ain't right.
Yep.
And he, sure, come on in, Mary. And it's like, that's all she needed.
That's all she needed, the invitation. Because they also use classic vampire tropes.
Yes. Yes,
being
they do.
invited in.
Exactly. Yes.
The aversion to garlic, the
Yes.
aversion to silver,
Silver.
which comes up later on. Yeah, I liked that. I actually
Right?
liked that they like included what's classically known, what's typically expected of a vampire.
Right.
And but the setting is what makes it so like fucking fresh. You know?
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And just, again, we're using vampires as cultural suckers, not just blood suckers.
Right, right.
You know, like that's such a great motif to use to say, look, we've always, and essentially they've always been this way, but we didn't realize it. We could tweak it just a little bit.
Well,
you
it's
know?
always been kind of like a blight on like humanity,
Sure.
on life, because
Right.
it's kind of like vampirism is technically like a disease.
There you go.
Almost,
There you go.
Right? So even when it's presented through Bram Stoker
Yes.
or any other vehicle, you know, there is no stopping the vampire
Right.
until either you cut off its head,
There
you
it
put it
is.
in the sun,
Right.
and it burns up.
Right.
You do something holy with it, with water and blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah.
So like, it is kind of something that's cancerous.
Yes,
that-
great.
that-
Oh.
right. It's disease. It's a fucking disease.
With
right?
Nosferatu, we saw that with the rats, right?
The
They
rats,
symbolize
exactly,
this
the
idea,
plague.
this disease, this
Yep,
plague
yep.
that comes, you know. So yeah, that's these little symbolisms that they put in here. Just again,
Yeah.
it's delicious as you're
Fuck yeah,
watching it.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So now we cut to she's back inside and she goes to find Stax. And she's pretty much just like, hey, baby, how about you and I go fuck? And Stax is kind of, whoa, I don't know. Maybe we should. And she's like, I think we should. And he's just like, yeah, fuck it. I think we should too.
Yeah.
So they take off. They go in a little room and they're doing their thing. Now, at the same time, there's a fight. A guy is using fucked up dice.
That's
and
right.
Smoke goes in there and essentially handles business and essentially is like, kick the shit out of this motherfucker and get him the hell out of here. In the meantime, he tells Sammy, go get my brother. We need to talk. And he's just like, okay. He goes into the room and he finds the two of them going at it. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm going back. And he's just like, where's my brother? And he's like, well, I'm not going to. He goes, I told you to go get my brother. And he's just like, yeah, well, he's busy. So they go in together. And he's like, I don't give a shit what he's doing. Well, when they go in, now she's biting his neck. Right. And he's flopping and she is just draining his ass. And immediately they're like, what the fucking fuck?
Yeah.
And she has this great line where she stands up. There's blood all over her mouth, down her breasts, on her dress, teeth, fangs, the whole thing. And she just goes, this isn't what you think. Like, I don't think you think I know what I'm thinking. You know?
Yeah, right.
You know? So immediately they do what you see in so many of these movies. Smoke grabs both of his 45 Colts. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I mean, he just fucking unloads in her. She drops, and this is like, oh, man, what are we going to... And 2 seconds later, she's right back up.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what the fuck is going... And she's just like, boom, she takes off. She runs out the
She
out
runs
the place.
out the whole place. Yeah.
So, of course, now, fucking Stax, they realize he ain't coming back.
Right.
He's going to die. Now Annie is starting to be like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, you shot her, and she ran the
And
fuck
she ran
out of
out,
here.
yeah.
What's going on? And at this point, Cornbread is also left to go take a piss
That's right.
and left Delroy Lindo to watch the door. Cornbread, as he's pissing, just keeps hearing voices going, Cornbread. Hey, Cornbread. Cornbread, Cornbread. And you see the little red eyes all over the place. Every time they say his name, he stops pissing and looking around. Finally, you realize something happened to Cornbread.
Yeah.
Well, then he shows back up to come inside. And they're like, that's when Annie really starts to, because he's like, hey, everybody, how's it going, man? Well, you know, let me inside. And Annie goes, hold up. You're big enough to push us all out of the way.
Yeah, like, why are you asking to come
Why are you
inside?
asking to come in? Again,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
invitation,
Yeah.
the beauty. And this happens over and over and over
Yes,
again.
yes.
You know, that's what's so, again, I think another subtle theme through all of this, choices.
Yep.
You have to invite them in. If that's what you want, that's what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
you have to invite them in. You know? And of course, he's just hemming and hawing because he can't say why he can't come in. And
He's
they're
like struggling to
yeah.
come up with excuses.
And he's just like, hey, this ain't the way we act. This ain't how we treat people. He even says a line that I thought was, oh man, I'd expect this, but not from black people.
Right.
You know, which I
Yeah.
thought was a very interesting line. You know
Yep,
what I mean?
yep.
You know, and then finally he's just like, well, fine, but I gotta get paid. So Smoke is like, because he's fair. All right, man did his job. He goes reach in his pocket. And he goes to give, and Annie tells him, be careful. And he sticks his hand out, and as soon as he does to put it in his hand, he grabs his arm, pulls him outside, tries to bite him.
Yes, that's right.
He shoots him in the head, like right through the jaw. You know,
Yeah.
fucking great scene. Oh, it's like, dude,
It's super
special
gory.
effects are fantastic.
Yeah,
They're
I
really
figured
good.
as much because it sounded brutal as fuck.
I mean,
so.
the jaw's kind of hanging a little and doing the, yeah, no, it was great. And he fucking gets back up like, what the fuck? Like, Smoke is like, which is, I think is, it happens a couple times. This is the first time I can remember it. The look on Smoke's face, this is a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
He don't bat an eye at shit.
Right.
And this, it looks like fear in his fucking face.
Oh, well, I mean, I would imagine so. One of the guys you're basically hiring is standing there, jaws hanging loose. You just shot him in the face.
And I just shot my brother's fucking girlfriend
brother's
and
girl,
watched her
yeah.
run out the door.
And she took off
He is
after
just
saying
like-
the you know, I mean, honestly, some of the hottest shit
Oh,
anyone's going to say.
phew, there are worse
right?
ways to die, believe
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
But
So-
yeah, so he gets back inside, and now Annie's like, all right, there's something fucking going on. Now, she originally calls them haints.
Right.
She believes them to be haint, which I looked up. Kind of a zombie-ish kind of thing is
Yeah.
what she originally thinks they are.
Yeah.
And she's just like, all right, there's certain things, da-da-da-da. And she's like, she tells Smoke also, we got to get the brother out of here.
Right.
You can't leave that dead body in here. And he's just like, but dude, this is my brother. I can't. And she's like, ah. So what they do is they just lock him in the closet where he's at.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they start hearing a beating on the door because Stack is back up.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck? And he's pissed. And
He's
there's a
pissed.
great scene where it's the camera from below him as his head's up against the door, pounding on it. Very much The Shining when Jack is trying to get to the door.
Yes. Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
great
yeah.
little shot like that, which clearly, again, knowing Ryan Coogler's, he's clearly a nod,
Oh, yeah. He's a fan.
Eventually, he busts his ass out the door and then goes running outside.
Yeah.
And now they're like, all right, I think we know what we're dealing with here. We need to fucking get... Or actually, when he busts out the door, he tries to attack his brother.
Right.
And she has a jar in her hand and throws it at him. And when it breaks on him, it burns his skin.
Right.
And he takes the fuck off. And they're like, what the fuck was in that jar? She's like, pickled garlic.
Yes, that's right.
And they're like, okay. And that's when she realizes, we're dealing with vampires here.
Yeah.
And essentially is like, all right, everybody, like, they're all outside and they're coming for us.
Which, here's the one
Please.
thing that had me kind of guessing, like, why this was a choice. There were two vampires in the building already, Mary and Stack.
Well, Mary had already left.
Yeah, but she was in the building. Remember that. She went for Stack inside.
Oh, to get Stack,
get
essentially,
Stack,
yes.
yeah.
It fucks him and bites him and then takes off, and then Stack takes
but
off.
she was already.
Yeah, that is
right?
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Two people were inside already, and granted, the situation
Sure.
made it so like, oh well, they can't stay here because
My sense is that's a fantastic question. My sense is I couldn't tell you with her with Mary. My sense is once she breaks the because he tries to attack.
Yeah.
When she breaks the garlic over him, he freaks and takes off.
yes, I think on that one, obviously it was more like
I think
defensive
maybe that
maneuvers.
I
yeah.
do wonder too. Now that you say this, that's a great question. I did not think about this. Is there also perhaps a little bit of the hive mind part of it? Is there strength in numbers? He wants all of them outside so that there's more of them, maybe.
Well, what I
mean,
would've-
it's a
what
great
I would
question.
what I would attribute it to is more of like the self-preservation.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
when Remick goes to the house with the couple,
Yeah.
he's burning.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And he's going to do anything he can to get in there. Luckily for him, they happen to be clan members.
Absolutely.
And people who
And
are
like gold.
susceptible to white. To white and gold, right?
yes. Exactly. Yeah. No. I that's a great question, and you're right. Like, I mean, it is interesting. Like, why leave when you could have stayed? And God knows you're strong enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you can just keep coming back
absolutely.
at that point.
You know,
right? So,
and especially because she did. Like, why does she have to be re-invited in?
yes,
If nothing else, right?
Exactly.
Again.
Yes.
All right. Sorry, Coogler. Your movie sucks. I don't know. No. Anyway, but no. So. Now this happens, and now, essentially, there's a giant party outside. They're doing river dancing and having a fucking gay old time out there. And he is singing his Irish songs, and everybody's having a... Now, what's interesting is he is actually showing them, look at this. Look at this peace and love we're having out here. Join us. Come with us. Come on. What's the problem, everybody? You know, and in a way, it's seductive.
Yeah.
Because, again, if you were a black person in the South at that time... your freedom only goes so far.
And it's giving you community.
There
right?
it is.
It's giving you acceptance.
There it is,
right?
right? Which they get from either their religion, when they get at the juke joint, when they're playing music, so on and so forth.
Yep.
So now at this point, you have essentially, they're like, okay, everybody who's in here, it's time to do a garlic test.
Yes. This is the part that's reminiscent of The Thing and the faculty.
No doubt. I thought it was fantastic. Especially what I love is, too, and only in movies, but when they pass it around and Grace gets the first one, you didn't have any more of the pickled stuff? I love that. And then they get to Pearline, and she's just like, well, I don't really like this stuff. Like, listen, you want to die?
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit if you like it or not? Now, I get it. That's the tension.
Yes.
You think she's delaying. You think, oh, God, maybe that means, what I mean?
Yeah, yep.
And I love, because smoke is smoke. Pulls his guns out. You better start eating. And of course, Sammy like, oh, no, come on, man. No. He pops him right in the mouth with the butt of the gun and says, boy, I'm trying to save your ass. You eat it or get the fuck out of here, essentially,
Yeah.
They get to
Delta.
Delta. He's eating it, freaking out, and they're thinking, oh, shit. And he's like, no, it's the beer. The beer's fucking me up.
The beer fucked me up. My GI. Yeah. Yep. That
know,
was funny as hell.
it is. It's so
Because when
great.
I saw, the first time I was taking it out, I was like, oh, this is the comical exposing of the vampire.
Oh, absolutely.
But then it doesn't.
It's so, well, even the part where he's just like, y'all smell that? And they're like, no. He goes, pretty sure I shit myself.
Oh, yeah.
Just little things like that. Cornbread's hilarious. I mean, it's all that. I believe at this point, too, this has already happened where, okay, things are getting crazy. Grace says to her husband, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Yes,
we got to get
that's
the fuck
right.
out of here.
Yeah.
And he's like, no problem. Hey, sweet, I got you. She's
I'll
like,
go get
don't,
the car.
don't think about our daughter, too. We got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go get the car. I'm going to pack it up. We're going to be fine. He leaves. Well, the moment he left. You already know.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Yeah.
It's over. It's done.
Yep.
So now they're all gathered at the door again. And now Remick, or first, her husband, Bo, comes up. And he's like, all right, baby, let's go. Let's rock and roll. And she's just like, okay, but, while that's happening, Cornbread is killing a man who went to go take a piss.
Oh, that's right.
And wasn't around for any of this. He's literally just eating him on the ground. And Bo's walking up like, hey, baby, you ready to go?
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, you see this, right? Like, you see what's going on.
Are we going to pretend
We're
this
just
isn't
pretending
happening?
like this is
Yeah.
You seem very calm while you're watching Cornbread eat a man, And it starts to dawn on her, oh, shit, And Annie once again steps in. It's like, don't do it. And he's just like, oh, we got to go, baby. Come on, we got to get our daughter. Da, da, da. Now Remick comes back up, and he's just like, hey, join us. Look, this is the freedom you're looking for. Right. It's not in there, and it certainly isn't in this country with on and on. And he's, again, the seduction.
Yes.
The seduction of it all. If you take it at its surface, well, again, all I'm asking you to do is leave one cult and join another.
Yeah.
The choice you make.
That actually also plays into the seductive version of just a vampire.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just what he's offering
Absolutely.
because of this,
Yes.
but like, this is the vampire seducing the victim in whatever way. Like classically we know it as Bela Lugosi with whatever lady it was on screen.
For sure.
But in this one, it's Remick doing the thing like, hey, you want to belong somewhere.
Right.
We'll give you that something to belong to.
Absolutely. I know what, I've been around long enough. I know how you're treated here in America.
Right.
I won't treat you that way.
Yeah.
Look at me. Look at us. We're out here having a good time.
Yeah.
Join us. What's the problem? And now at this point, you have Stack and you have Mary going, come on, guys. I'm telling you, man. Now Stack's directly talking to Smoke. And Smoke is starting to feel it because, they have a deep connection.
Yeah.
You feel this. And, Smoke is kind of like, and they're just like, dude, you can't. That ain't your brother. I don't give a fuck what he says. That ain't your brother, dude. At one point, too, again, you get the hive mind part is where the Asian guy is talking to his wife, and he goes, oh, yeah, we'll go get your daughter. Oh, yeah, I know all that. Right. I know all about your daughter.
That's right.
And then he even speaks to her in Chinese, tells her how pardon my language, but how she likes her pussy licked.
Right.
And says it all in Chinese. Yeah. Because now I've got your husband, I've got his language, I've got his knowledge,
yes.
I've got his, if you will, powers.
Right.
Because I've brought him into my clan now, And, this continues. And now Grace is pissed because she realizes I sent my husband to his death, on top of which they're going to go get my fucking daughter.
Yeah.
They use this as again, if I can't get seduction, then I'll use force. Okay, don't come out. Maybe we'll go check on your daughter at the store.
Right.
What do you say to that? Now she's fucking pissed. In the meantime, also, this is a great thing is Annie tells Smoke, you got to kill me. if I get bit or anything happens to me, you must kill me.
Yeah.
You cannot let me turn. I will not turn.
Yeah.
You know, they go through what kills them. So it's now they've done the garlic thing, so now they understand garlic, silver, steaks. They're making steaks. They're doing everything. They are, again, montage. You know, they're getting ready for war. And they're like, okay, you know, we got to get ready. And more importantly, they say, all we got to do is make it through the night. If we can make it till morning, we're going to be all right.
Right.
Kind of a dusk till dawn again.
Yep.
Grace has other ideas.
She does, yeah.
Grace is worried about her daughter, and she pretty much says, fuck it. Come on in. And once Remick hears that, that's all he needs.
Yeah, all bets are off.
All bets. And they just attack the place. And then it's just a fucking all-out brawl, you know, which is fucking killer to see. I mean, you're watching vampires die. They're flipping a guy on a table while the other one stabs a snake through their heart, you know. When Grace dies, that's amazing.
Grace does die, yes.
Yeah. She throws a Molotov cocktail at him. He bumps it up against the wall, and then she grabs a stake, jumps through the fire at another one, and is stabbing him to death while she's on fire.
Yeah, that's
It was
pretty
fucking badass.
So I also did notice that at that point when Stack is speaking to Smoke, his eyes are purple.
They're all getting those little red eyes. They're all,
So his
absolutely.
are purple
Yeah.
because of the blue and the red.
Yeah.
Right? Which I was like, fucking, detail.
Again. And like, I even saw they said, at that point, remember, he puts the vest on. Because he's had his shirt off. Now he puts the vest on. The vest is the other thing that Remick isn't wearing. Like, it's like
that's right.
You know, it's like this weird little. They're all, you know, like he's even on the Remick's shoulder. Like, yeah, man, come on, join us. It's like, you know, you just get all this. Like, the moment you're in, you're in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we're all in this. What's the big bro? Join us. You know, the twins at The Shining. You know.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy, dude. And it's just like, go ahead, please.
Another detail with Remick too is when he first appears at the juke joint. It was pointed out to me he's wearing suspenders and a belt.
Yes,
which you don't do.
No.
So the examples I was provided with were, one, if you have money, or two, if you don't know how to fit in.
That's where I took it. It was almost like, this is what you humans do, right?
Yes, yeah.
You know, and again, because he is trying to fit in anywhere he can, because his ultimate goal is to take you and make you fit into him.
Right, yeah. So like one of them, because he had those gold coins, he would have been obviously a man of what's it called?
Extreme wealth.
Of extreme wealth, yeah. So like he could dress however he wanted
Absolutely.
to bring forth the lie, right? To present the lie.
Right.
And since he was going to a juke joint somewhere not necessarily, you know, welcoming of white people, I guess.
Yes.
You know, like he's gonna dress as best as he thinks he can get away with.
But also, I'm the common man.
I'm the common. Yeah, exactly.
My jeans and my suspenders. Well, I'm just a lowly boy with his guitar. We're just playing some songs.
Poor Robin clean.
Yeah, exactly. And that whole it's so fantastic.
Yeah. That whole scene was awesome.
It really is.
Yeah.
And again, like everybody in there is just batting 1,000. It's just everybody's on 10, and it's just working all the time, man. So now you get it where this brawl is heading out, and essentially the biggest one is going to be Stack versus Smoke.
Right.
But prior to that, Annie gets bit.
Yes.
So immediately Smoke, as much as he doesn't want to, and God knows it pains him, he does. He puts a stake through her heart. Now what's interesting is Mary freaks the fuck out.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no! And you realize she was like a goal. They needed her. Now, there are many reasons maybe this is. Is it to get Smoke? Is it to get her Hutu? That's what I think it is. Another one of the cultural appropriations. Yeah. They want her religious practices.
Because she knows how to work against vampires.
There you go.
So they would have protection against that.
That's what I thought, because the reaction was like, you know, the rest of them are like, well, we got him. Who cares? But they were very upset by that. And I do think maybe some of it would be like, that's the best way to get Smoke to come back to us.
Sure. Yeah,
but at the same time, I also thought when we're looking into the cultural appropriation part of it, I think it's also her religious stuff that they really would have wanted.
She had the powers.
Absolutely.
You know, it would have been if they got with the the Choctaw Indians.
Yes.
You know, like if they had gotten one of them,
Right.
now they have one of the hunters.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was, again, another one of those scenes where you're just like, this is important. Pay attention to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they were like, son of a bitch. Like, we lost a goal on this.
Yeah.
At this point, they're still attacking. Now you really do get, he is coming after Sammy because that's who Remick now has got his eyes on. Like, there's that part where he goes, Sammy! Which is just like, Jesus, man. And that's when he tells him, I want your music.
Yeah.
I want what you do. And I want it now, essentially. So now Smoke and Stack start to fight. It's a good fight. I mean, they're
Yes.
pretty equal, considering one's a vampire with this epic strength. But somehow,
Yeah, right. The other one can still hold his own.
yeah. In the meantime, Perline, she's already been bit, so she's already turned.
Yeah.
At this point, Flats,
Delta Slim.
Thank you. Delta Slim is pretty much just like, fuck it, y'all. Look, you get upstairs, you run for your. I'm done here. And he cuts his arm with a bottle, and essentially is like, come on, come and get it, you motherfuckers. I
Yep.
try to delay them so that you can live on. Essentially,
Right.
He feels like, look, I've lived long enough. I'm good.
And they swarm him. Yeah.
Absolutely, and they just tear him apart. But at this point, the two of them are fighting, and he pretty much gets with Sammy. He's like, get the fuck out of here, dude. You go through the window, leave. Just get the fuck out. Sammy does. Everybody's pretty much inside at this point.
Yeah.
Well, Sammy gets about so far, and then guess who shows up? It's Remick.
Yeah.
Now and the beauty is, like, again, so much of this movie, two things are happening at the same time. You're kind of cut between the two of them the entire time. At this point, you're cutting between Smoke and Stack fighting each other, and Remick essentially about to take out Sammy and turn him, if you will, to the dark side.
It's also the very physical fight and then the more mental fight.
Great! Oh, fantastic point.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, one for the physical, the other for the soul. Yeah. Absolutely. Great point. Yes. For absolute. And the beauty is that the brothers, one does not want to kill the other necessarily. One wants to bite the other so that he can join him because he loves his brother and he wants him to join the group. The other one does not want to join the fucking group, but he does not want to kill his brother either.
Yeah.
And it's just this, you see this in both of them. At one point, he goes to bite him and he can't because the mojo bag.
That's right. He does get kind of repelled.
Yes.
And it's a very visible.
Oh, he's
kind of like,
Yeah.
It's
Very cool. Like, again, these little things that they set up in the beginning, look how they're coming back.
Yeah,
That even he doubts it, and it's probably the one thing that saved
the
him.
one thing that saved
You
him.
know?
And it was Annie. Annie, of course. The
And
person he
again,
loved.
because
Right.
she was always looking out for him and his brother, ultimately.
Right.
Now we get to the part that for those who do not know, I am a white man. So a lot of this movie, obviously, I understand it. I know where they're coming from, and I understand it in a lot of ways. But again, these are not my personal experiences. These are
Right.
things I learned thanks to directors like Ryan Coogler, thanks to friends of color, to understand where these things are coming from. But the part that struck me, where I went, oh, I'm feeling that, is when he finally gets a hold of Sammy.
Yeah.
And Sammy instinctively goes to the Lord's Prayer
Yeah.
and starts to recite it. And what's interesting, Remick starts to recite it with him, but now in an Irish accent.
That's right. Yeah.
He drops the Southern shit, and he's doing it pure Irish. And I wrote this down because I loved this quote because I think it again, the way they connect these three cultures that in some ways are nothing alike and yet in some other ways are everything alike. And this is one that I think all three of those cultures share in some ways. Okay. So when he's reciting it, he tells him, the man who stole my father's land forced these words upon us.
Right.
And I hated those men, but the words still bring me comfort. That hit me. That hit me hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, again, Irish were not Catholics. They were not Christian people. That was forced upon them by the English. Yes. And so and you think about African Americans as we join them. These are freed people now. They live on their own land. They're doing their own thing. And yet they still cling to a religion that was forced upon them by their slave masters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Native Americans, again, many of them have been able to keep their cultures, but many of them were forced out of their cultures, or certainly religion thrust upon them.
It's actually funny that you mentioned this.
Please.
A lot of Native people, a lot of people in other countries that have also been kind of forced religion on, they do kind of mishmash, Catholicism and Christianity with their more native beliefs. So like if they believe in a great spirit, they do call it the great spirit, but then eventually God comes into the fray.
I got you.
So that's why those words, like when he said that, I was like, yeah, I'm glad this is being pointed out.
Me too.
Yeah.
Obviously our stances on religion is we've talked about in other places.
Pretty obvious, I think.
And we have a feeling about it. I just thought this is a great point to show, like, it doesn't take away from what white people did to African Americans in this country. It doesn't take away from what they did to Native Americans, so on and so forth. It is just to say the pushing upon a culture onto other people, and yet somehow because of simply it's always been, or it feels like it's always been, or it's part of our history.
Yeah.
Hispanics, as yourself, Catholicism did not start with you guys. It was forced upon you. Yeah. And yet, obviously, the Catholic Church is massive in places like Mexico and other places. Yep. So I remember when I saw the movie the first time, I wish I could have rewound because I wanted to memorize what he said because it just hit me so hard. And I thought it was just a great way of almost consolidating everything that this movie is about in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and the cultural appropriation, I think, is the main theme.
Of course.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, of course.
But it is to say that these things are thrust upon us, and yet somehow we still find comfort in it.
Yeah, and that's, doing something like this in a movie that's so, for its purposes, mainstream.
Yeah.
Which I know these topics aren't new to conversations.
No.
But when you're delivering it with the facade of it's a vampire movie or it's a socially conscious movie, but it takes place in this part.
Breach.
Like that's another thing that should get talked about is how this gets forced on people, and because it's been forced on them for so long, and through the circumstances of it being presented to them, it at one point is going to be a comfort.
Yeah.
And while like the belief maybe isn't the same, and it won't be.
Sure.
Right?
Great point. Yes.
Like it's not going to be the same as the people who give it to you.
Yes.
But you make it your thing.
Right.
Right. Like the black churches.
Absolutely.
Go to a black church and then go to a white church. Right. Yeah. And tell me where you have the most fun.
Well, you could go in as yourself, blind, and you would know what church you were at.
Oh, of course. And I have been. I have been.
Believe me, there's nobody walks into a white evangelical church and goes, I'm feeling like a lot of black people. Yes,
I'm feeling the spirit here. No,
it ain't the same. It just isn't.
And it's not just like the festiveness.
No.
Because even when they sing their hymns and stuff.
Yeah.
It's coming from somewhere else.
Oh God,
it's coming from a place of hurt. Of again the desire for that family that's been taken away.
For sure.
Right?
For
pain.
sure.
There's a lot of fucking pain there.
Well, it's not a mystery. This is also why the blues come from these people.
Of course.
This is why they're bringing their and again, they're indigenous lands and the places they lived before.
Lands,
When you look into the cultures that they do there, these are spiritual people. These are I mean, let's be honest. I mean, honkies just sit around and can barely clap in time. And he makes that joke about when they're playing the blues at the party, and he's like, most of the white people can keep in time, but we start messing with it, and then they couldn't keep up or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like it just is like, look, for all that we love about rock and roll, think a black person because it ain't coming from white people. It just wasn't. And by the way, rock and roll is all coming out of the church. Every early rock and roller, white and black, is all coming out of the church. This is where they're first hearing music. Aretha Franklin was vastly popular. Her father was a well-known preacher. I don't know.
Yep.
So yes, these things even though they are foisted upon these people, their cultures will change it in ways that they want it to be, so that it does become their culture. It becomes comforting, and I get that. I totally do. Yeah. It's just sad because how much of their culture did they have to give up?
Right.
While they took this, and it was forced upon them by people. As he says, these men thought they could control the heavens and the earth, that hell was below and heaven was above, or something to that effect. He's like, they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about, and half of them didn't believe it anyway.
Right.
And that's the other part. You use these things to essentially rule over people or make them conform to what you want, and you don't even believe it yourself.
It's another detail, and I don't know that I saw this anywhere, but I was thinking about this the entire time. The three groups of people here, Native, indigenous people here, the black people, black African people,
right,
and then the Irish. So at some point when the whole police system was being set up, some of the early people that they got were the Scots-Irish.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And of course, they went against black people and anybody else.
Sure.
And then at one point, black people were hired as basically soldiers to kind of wipe out indigenous tribes in the United States, right? So all of these are already, if they're not linked because of their suffering, which they
for sure,
at some point being in this country pits them against each other.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And for nothing else, just for some to fit in, for others to lead
just to survive.
Just to survive. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's again, this is the good and the bad, the beauty and the evil part of it. It's like, wow, these 3 things that we would not normally put into the same category, yet look how much they actually share.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, before we, for those who, indentured servitude is not the same as slavery. So we're not doing the Irish black thing. It's just to say, all people suffer in one way or another. But, when we're talking about America, we're talking about it in a different way. But but how much of that is also Remick understanding the women's struggle in America? Because he goes, oh, yeah, that happened to me too 650 years ago. But I totally know what you're going through. Right. That's why you should join me.
And also, he's had just about 1,000 years to craft his words.
Absolutely.
Right?
His speeches are well worn, I'm sure.
Yeah, so they're like,
and that's part of it too. Is like, so where did he exactly come from? Why didn't he come with 5 other people? You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting in that way. But I also like the idea of like he is literally dropped into our laps.
I think the coins also give it away. The coins he's giving away.
He tells what's her name? Like when she's like, where did these come from? He goes, from a long time ago.
Yeah.
You get the fact like, yeah, dude, I've been around, brother.
Yep.
This ain't my first rodeo. You know what I mean? I don't know if you saw too, like interestingly enough, I guess there's stuff online. I think he said Spotify, which I was like, what?
I did see this.
Okay, so
they do have like a paper,
like a newspaper
like
with
a
clippings.
newspaper,
You saw the one. Okay, did you see the one about the essentially? Clearly taking from Bram Stoker, the ship that comes into port. There's no one there. The ship burns down.
Which here's why. Bram Stoker, obviously the father of all vampires.
Tell me. There we go.
Comes from Irish parents.
I know.
So like,
it's
what the fuck, right?
Right. I'm just like, dude, I don't care where you start digging, you'll never stop.
No,
it's so great. It's so
fucking
great, man.
Honestly, it's stacked with references.
I have to smoke. So yes, again, that quote. That's when the movie truly, from myself, just hit me like a ton of bricks. Where I went, I fucking love this film.
Right.
I am absolutely. I was already digging it, but that just, I don't know. It just really, really hit me. You know. Yeah. I think it's also, again, not an accident, as all these things. As he's doing this, he's dunking Sammy into the water like a baptism.
Like a baptism, yes.
You know, he's already scarred his face because now he's got the vampire claw kind of thing going on.
Right.
You know, and at this point, you see one last little scene between Stack and Smoke as they're fighting, and then that cuts away. And now you're just with Sammy and him.
Yeah.
And it looks like, well, we're done here, everybody. They're all kind of gathered around at the shore of this little lake where he's dunking him.
Right.
All the other vampires. And now Sammy kind of takes one last shot, takes his guitar, and he smashes him over the head with it. Well, the guitar, maybe you know, I'm so bad with these. I know it's not a steel guitar. I don't know.
No, but like part of like the bridge has steel.
Well, it's
silver in it.
Yeah, it's the silver ring that's on the, what's the, all you guys have guitars with holes in them for some reason. I don't know. Willie's got a bigger hole in his guitar, but
where the string goes through.
No. So when you play like an acoustic guitar, it's got the hole in the middle. Oh
yes, my bad. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
That part has a big silver piece in it.
That's right.
So when he hits him, that thing embeds itself in his head like a fucking like a saw blade.
Yeah.
Which stuns him because it's silver,
yeah.
And he is now kind of stuck in this kind of fuck. And the hive mind reacts because all of the other vampires are losing their shit, grabbing their head.
Right.
That part is really cool. And you think, okay, well, now what? Because now he's kind of like dazed and confused, but now he's about to go in for the kill. And out of nowhere, you just see a stake come ramming from behind.
Yes.
And it's Smoke.
That's Smoke. Yeah, yeah.
And Smoke gets him, and he gives him the last stab. And at that same time, the sun is starting to rise.
Yep. And up in flames.
Oh,
up in smoke.
Yes, absolutely. He gathers Sammy, and that's another one. This was in the previews, and that was the one that kind of locked me in. Again, the look on his face is of absolute fucking terror. You've watched this guy just kick ass, take names, and have no problem doing anything. And once again, terror in his eyes as Remick starts to light on fire, as all the other ones start to light on fire. And they start to crawl away, too. I thought that was very cool way to do that. They're on all fours, just like animals.
Animals, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So as this is happening, what's really cool is instead of just bursting into flames, it turns into like a tornado of flames.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, as soon as I saw it, I definitely thought almost like Moses, right? The burning bush or something like that. Well, please.
You know what I got?
Go ahead.
The pillars of fire.
I think another one, again, the biblical reference in general.
Yeah.
Well, then it goes even deeper because Elijah is taken to heaven in a fiery chariot.
Yeah.
And Elijah is smoke. Again, there's no accidents here, people. Nobody just said
forget which
that'll
one
look
it
cool.
is, too, because their names, one of them means the hand of God, and the other one is the voice of God. Or
I believe. Well, as I understood it, and again, I could be wrong. What I read was essentially it's like a Greek version of the name and a Hebrew version of the name.
Yeah,
that they're technically the same name.
Yes.
But again, the biblical reference. Even Sammy is Samuel.
Samuel, yeah. He's
Take it from the Bible. Mary. Even people are kind of like, oh, wait a minute, Mary, the Virgin Mary. Could that be a thing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, because she, depending on what version of this you want to,
please,
she did want familial people in her life.
Yes,
that's why she. I'm not gonna say she attached herself, but that's why she was so loyal to Christ and Joseph and the other Mary.
Well,
right?
and even Annie, I guess I had read something. Mary's mother may have been Saint Anne. I'm not a biblical scholar in that way.
I would like to see where Annie comes in. She probably is a like Saint Anne from like France or something.
There's got to be. It's again. There are no accidents with this Coogler guy.
Yeah,
I mean, it just isn't. So essentially, we have killed all vampires. They are gone. We have saved the day. Essentially.
Yeah.
Well, going backwards a little bit, another thing that Remick tells them when he's trying to seduce them one last time to come out is to let them know the clan is showing up tomorrow.
Oh, right.
The guy you bought this from, he's the fucking grand wizard of the clan out here.
Right.
And he's coming in the morning. He's going to kill all of you.
Yep.
So if you come with me, we'll fucking kill him. Right. He even says, we'll get his ass and we'll kill him. We'll take the whole thing out, man. So that's a warning. So Smoke knows now. Okay, no problem. Clan showing up, no problem. So now, daylight, everything's cool. They get everything back together, and he essentially goes over to the truck, and he's like, hey, help me get this thing out of the truck. And it's this big, kind of a footlocker, if you will, like a military footlocker. Gets it out of the truck. He tells Sammy, he's like, all right, man, you need to get your ass home and get rid of that fucking guitar, dude. And he's just like, but I can't, man. You guys got this.
It belonged to
that blues guy that you got it from. And Smoke goes, what? And he's like, yeah, Stack told me. And he's like, that lying motherfucker. He says, the guitar belonged to our dad.
Yeah.
Which is why his father did not want him having it.
Because
the two dads
were brothers.
There you go. Yeah. He knew his brother. He knew what an evil man he was.
Yes. Yeah.
And he didn't want his son having that guitar. And they lied to him when they gave him the guitar. Yeah. He thought it was something else, So Sammy takes off. He gets in the car. The car, ironically, that he wanted to drive, and Stack told him, don't worry, you can drive it on the way back. I don't think it's the way back that he was thinking, but nonetheless, it does happen that way.
Still gets to
he does get to drive it on the way back. Just not the way I think he wanted to. Yeah. In the meantime, Smoke is now preparing. He is like, clan showing up. I made a promise. Then motherfuckers show up. I'm killing every last one of them.
Yeah.
And he opens up that footlocker. You see 2 World War I helmets.
Yep. Him
and his brother. He pulls out I think it's like a BRE, this big badass fucking, essentially like a big sniper rifle, for that time. I think what's also interesting, he pulls off the mojo bag off his neck.
Because he knows last stand, right?
Absolutely. I don't need it to save me because I've lost everything. I lost my woman. I lost my brother. I ain't got nothing else except to kill every one of these fucking clan members. Right. And then I'm going out. Another thing, another detail, and I wonder again, because sometimes when you watch it, I know you get the audio description, so that's neat what details they do and do not tell. Did they mention the necklace that he's wearing with the 2 coins?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good. I'm glad they did. Because that's a neat little detail. Yeah. It's 2 coins. It's clearly him representing him and his brother.
Yeah.
That stays on his neck for the time being. So he's getting his shit all together. What he does try to do is roll a cigarette. which
right.
he always has a problem. He has a little bit of a shake.
Right.
Most people will assume this is kind of a PTSD thing. In the beginning, remember, Stack rolls the cigarette.
That's right.
And they pass it back and forth.
Yes.
He can't roll the cigarette. He can't do it.
Which, that scene,
Please.
the filming of that scene, apparently, going back to the having to film it twice.
Yeah.
Getting the angle correctly
Yes.
and passing the cigarette at the right time
Dude.
and everything for the same actor, by the way, right?
Which, by the way, when you watch it, is fucking seamless.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the old Haley Mill Parent Trap where you can clearly see the line between the two girls.
Right.
Like, he leans over and takes a puff off the cigarette.
Yeah.
Like,
That's cool as
that
hell.
shit was... When they hug each other, you're even like, wait a minute. Like I said, there were people I know who were like, yeah, it took about 20 minutes, and then I realized, I was just like, one girl at work said that. I was like, you understand the world could not survive if there were two Michael B. Jordans, right? There would be no women left for anyone, okay?
Yeah.
Like, come on, please, one's enough. It gives the rest of us at least a sporting chance.
Yeah, I know, right?
But, so anyway, so he now prepares.
Yeah.
He knows the Klan's coming. Sure enough, the motherfuckers show up. And they show up in droves. They got a good bunch of dudes. He's nowhere to be found. And they're grabbing the door. The door's locked. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you just boom, boom, boom. And you're watching these guys drop like fucking flies. And he is just shooting them with that big sniper rifle. As he's walking out, there's a hole in the ground. He pops the hole and grabs a Tommy gun.
Yeah.
The Tommy gun now has the chain that has the 2 coins on it.
Yep.
As if he's going to war with his brother. Yeah. And he just continues just killing Klan members like there's no fucking tomorrow.
Well, also, the Tommy gun, something the Italian
absolutely
mob would have used.
There it is. Absolutely. Right? Another nod to that, which then makes you think it is a shared locker, but if he's using the Tommy gun, is that because he worked with the Italians? And
well, it's because he had the big older rifle,
right?
And Stack
most
likely
likely
the Tommy gun,
and that's what's so again these little things, you know.
Yeah.
So as he's just killing every one of these motherfuckers, he blows one up with a fucking grenade. Yeah. He ends up getting shot.
Yes,
and he realizes like that's going to be the end of that.
Yeah,
one guy left, and it's the guy they bought it from. He's already shot him, and he's crawling. Oh, he's bleeding like a stuck pig.
Yep.
And he comes up to him and stands over him, and he says, "You got a cigarette?" And he says something I'm not going to repeat, and you can imagine, considering. And finally, he does like pop out some cigarette, and now Smoke gets he gets the smoke. Yeah. He gets something he's wanted. The guy even tries, which I thought again, I don't think an accident. He tries to bribe him.
Yeah.
He says, "Hey man, I got money," and just boom, 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 just unloads into that motherfucker. At this, go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say, which is reminiscent of the remix.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? I do not think that was I think that was a perfect choice that was made to say no different.
In 2 ways also, because when some of Remic's vampires are trying to save themselves and they're on fire and burning, they're also crawling away, right? So like, it just shows how both of them at one point become basically the rodents that they are.
Absolutely.
Trying to save themselves.
Great point. Yes. Right. It's self-preservation.
Yes.
For all their big badassness and all them showing up and we going to do this and we going to do that. When somebody really who can do that does it, suddenly you
do that?
Now suddenly you're like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, because there's another great quote. That I thought was really good. So you have, again, and this is a back and forth.
Yeah.
At this same time, you're going back and forth with Sammy going home. So now you're seeing essentially the beginning of the movie.
Right.
He's coming down the car. He cannot let go of the neck of that guitar whatsoever. He's got literally a death grip on this motherfucker. Gets out of the car. As he's walking into church, they're singing "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine."
Yeah.
And when he walks in, somebody yells his name, and immediately his father's like, "Everybody just chill out," kind of thing. And it's just like, "Sammy, come on up here. You got to make a choice, essentially. Leave the devil and leave his music. Come here." And Sammy has to make a choice. And now, of course, what choice will he make?
Right.
It's also showing you some flashbacks a little bit. And now we cut back, I believe, in this way, we cut back to Smoke. Smoke is now sitting there. He's got a cigarette. Mm-hmm. He's clearly dying. He knows this is the end of it. He now has a vision of Anne, and she is holding their child. She's breastfeeding it.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful moment, and he sees it. whether this is happening or is happening in his mind.
I think it's in death.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like in transition.
I couldn't agree with you more. This is a vision he sees, which is also why she wanted him to kill her. I will not be an ever-living dead person.
Right. Let me be with my baby.
There it is. I want to be reunited.
Yeah.
And I think he sees this too as his ability to be reunited
Yep.
with the family that he lost for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting is she tells him, he's sitting there smoking and he sees her and she tells him, Elijah, put out the cigarette to not get any smoke on her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was such a...
Because of the character of Smoke.
Right.
Don't bring that into our piece. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
We are at peace now.
Yeah.
Don't put any of that smoke on her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he puts out the cigarette.
That was a great line.
And he grabs the baby and he holds her. And that's essentially, that, and he's passed.
dead. Yeah.
He's dead. So... what decision does Sammy make? This is the whole thing. It's like, I don't know. And then he's struggling. And is there a resolve to that, or do they immediately cut to?
I think they cut.
I think they do, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Now, here's something interesting, and I know you'll appreciate this. You may already know. So it cuts to October 16th, 1992 in Chicago.
Yes. So
Please.
Incredibly important.
Okay.
In October 16th, 1992, a great fucking movie starring one of the best horror actors ever, Tony Todd,
Hey, man.
was released by the name of Candyman.
Yes.
So Candyman is the story of a myth in black culture in the South that was kind of the savior, right? Like he was like the monster savior of black people at that time.
Right.
But the movie is based in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Came out on that day. Tony Todd, again, a great fucking black actor.
Absolutely.
And it still is linked with the history of slavery in
Yes.
the United States. So
Again.
again, every fucking, like, this cannot be a fucking, it can't be accidental.
No.
Right? And it's not.
And again, I will not pretend for a second I knew that when I was watching it.
Yeah.
I probably thought to myself, wow, we're really getting detailed here.
Like super specific.
Yeah,
because
why couldn't it have been on October 17th?
When they read that date to me, I was like, I know that fucking date. I know that fucking date because I love that first Candyman was fucking great. In fact, real quick side story.
Please.
I did live in Chicago for a bit, and many times I made the turns necessary when I was going home from work to pass by Cabrini Green, which is where Candyman is, where it takes place in the movie. So,
I said, those kind of nods that whether you knew it or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It doesn't affect the film in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But to know those little Easter eggs,
it's
wow.
so fucking perfect.
It really is.
It's just like, hey, here we already linked up so much other stuff. Here's a couple more.
Right. It's like the beauty is you can watch it and enjoy it, or you can watch it and then go watch 50 other movies so that you understand every single thing and read 65 books about American history.
This is the type of movie that says, hey, do you like American history that deals with slavery?
Right.
Well, here's that movie. Do you like American history that deals with blues music?
Absolutely.
Here's that movie.
Yes.
Right? Do you like vampire movies? Hey, here's that movie. Right. But by the way, we're also going to reference everything under the fucking sun.
And again, the beauty of, and we've talked about this before, the beauty of, once again, the ability of horror to teach and to use as metaphor to say things that other movies couldn't be as heavy-handed about.
Right.
But people watch, it's a vampire movie. No, it's not a vampire movie.
Yep.
They're using the vampire. That kind of
horror
brilliance.
Does get shit on because it's always seen as like it doesn't get taken as seriously as it should. I think.
I agree.
And granted, there are a lot of cheesy horror movies.
Sure.
Right? But when you have the fucking legend George Romero,
there you go,
talking about consumerism and capitalism and using zombies as the mobile the vehicle for these stories.
Night of the Living Dead to comment on Vietnam and race at the same time.
Yes, because the hero is a black person.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Dawn of the Dead is consumerism.
Yes.
Day of the Dead is the fucking I forget what it's called, but like the capitalism, like the wanton capitalism.
And that's the beauty of these things. That's an elevation of the genre in so many ways.
Yeah.
And again, something we've talked about millions of times, but it's once again told through a new voice.
Yes.
A white guy isn't coming up with this.
No, not at all.
Well, this is why you need all these different voices.
Yeah.
And I put it to a kin of this feels like a little bit of the Watchmen series where you go, wait, Oklahoma, Wall Street.
Oh,
wait,
yeah,
that
for
couldn't
sure.
have happened, did
Yes,
it?
and it did,
Holy
yeah.
shit, it did. And it's kind of the same thing here. These little nods that you're like, wait, this happened?
Yep.
Or these things do? Wow. So I'm just, to walk away, be entertained and learned? Like, I mean, come on.
Just because of also, like, there are many levels to actual history as there are in this movie.
For sure.
Right? And that's, I think, the beautiful thing is that it makes you curious enough to go and then afterwards, like, well, let me read on this a bit more, right? Or let me fucking check this out more.
Yes.
You know, like
I said, I watched that little thing about the people who they're still living in like Mississippi and stuff. They're Asian. I mean, the moment they open their mouth, like they sound like every other hillbilly that lives down there.
For sure.
And she's talking about, my parents ran this grocery store and this is how they were. And you're like, wow, I never. You just go, well, they're racist, right? So there's no way they could have lived in that. And it's like, wow, this happened, you know? Yeah, it blows my mind. I just love stuff like that. So yeah. So we cut to, as I said, October 16th, 1992, Chicago. Yeah. And on stage is, one of the all-time blues greats, Buddy Guy.
Buddy Guy.
Now he is playing an older Sammy.
Yes.
The scars are on his face, but it's clearly Buddy Guy. You know what I mean? In every sense of the word, it's Buddy Guy. He's up there playing electric blues, which again, Buddy Guy, one of the forefathers of the Chicago electric blues. He this is where he made his bones. Had a club in Chicago for some time, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So this is a legend. You know what I mean? To have him in this was just such a great little twist. So he finishes playing, everything's cool. The club's done for the night, and bodyguard comes in and says, "Hey man, there's two people outside. They want to pay money to see you. I told him he was closed, but are you cool?" And he's like, "I got no problem with that." And he goes to take a drink of his liquor that he's had, and as soon as he puts it to his mouth, it's as if he senses something because he stops.
Yep.
And the door slowly opens, and in comes Mary, and in comes Stax behind her, but dressed like they're in 1992.
Right.
She's got the cool jeans. She's got the leather jacket that's black and checkered. She's got the neat little sunglasses and the little belly shirt. He comes in with jeans and wearing a sweatshirt that they did say, I was like, of course. Biggie Smalls wore it in one of his videos.
No shit.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
cool.
exactly the same, but it's clearly a thing.
Like a nod to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Got the high top fade where there's also like a level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And wearing fucking the big old knuckle rings like
That says
Radio
Stax.
Raheem.
Right.
Like it says Stax.
Yeah.
Like Radio Raheem from fucking Do the Right Thing.
Yep.
So all those little nods, and as soon as they come in, of course Stax knows who they are. Or Sammy knows. He knows exactly who it is. And Stax is pretty much just like, "Hey man, we missed you. How you been?" kind of thing. And he's just like, we have all your records, by the way, and he's just like, "That electric shit ain't really my thing. I love the older shit, man," and he tells him, he's just like, and he kind of leans in and almost like he smells him. And he's like, "You ain't got much time left. I could change you, right?
Right.
I can make you live forever. You can keep doing this if you want, And then I think actually before that, he plays, he's like, "You think you can play for us?" He pops open the guitar, and there's the guitar.
Right, that's right.
The replica of the one that he killed Remick with.
Yeah.
He plays a little bit. He plays the song he played in the car. A woman kind of thing or whatever. When it's done, that's what he tells him. He's just like, "Hey, man, I can essentially turn you into us. You can be immortal.
You could live forever.
You can live forever, man. That's all I got to do." And what he does come to find out, more importantly, is Smoke made an agreement with his brother that he would let them live as long as they never touched Sammy. And they let him live. Which then makes you think, well, hold up. When the Klan shows up, is that why the place is locked up? Because he locked his brother and Mary inside?
Well,
because where did they escape to, right?
This also brings another question that I had.
Please.
And like these don't prevent the movie from being what it is today, right? Because I love the movie.
Yeah.
But when Remick is hurt with the silver in his head,
sure,
all the other vampires feel it.
Yes.
Why didn't Mary and Stack feel it?
Again, great point.
Right.
Why were they not even there?
Why were they not even there?
At that point, I have to assume, because that's the only way Smoke gets out, right?
Right.
He must have made this deal with his brother already, right? He must have told them, "Here's the deal. I won't kill you. I won't kill Mary. You guys can be together forever."
Right.
Which, in a way, they do want.
Sure.
Like, and weirdly, it is this kind of be careful what you wish for, right?
Yep.
They did want to be together. Well, here you go. You can be together forever.
Yeah.
You know? And like I said, just I'm with you. I don't think this takes away from the movie. Just
not at all.
Just a wondering, like, how
how
did this? Because he tells him straight up, he's like, my brother made a deal. As long as we left you alone, for the rest of your life until you die, he'd let us live on. You know. And again, Sammy turns to him and he says, I think I've been on this world long enough. I'm good, man.
Yeah.
You know. I appreciate it though, and they're like, "All right, man." He slaps down a couple $100, and that's when you see the big knuckle, thing that says stacks. And they go to walk out, and before he walks out, Sammy says to him, buddy guy essentially, he says to him, he says, "Hey, man, a lot of nights, at least once a week, I wake up paralyzed thinking about that night and what happened. But I also think to myself, that was one of the greatest nights of my life before all that shit went down, right?
Yep.
Wasn't it?" And Stack tells him, he's like, absolutely, man. He says, it's the last time I saw the sun and the last time I saw my brother. And in that moment, we were free.
Yep.
And I thought that was just such a...
That's the line that honestly made the whole fucking move for me.
Because he really is talking about, in that moment, when we were in that juke joint, when your music was playing, all the shit in our life went elsewhere.
Yeah.
And in that moment, none of it existed.
Right.
We were on another plane, another planet,
Yeah.
and everything felt great.
It's like that when they were together in the juke joint, and that moment is happening for them.
Yes.
That connection again with the predecessors and the descendants, right? It's like everything is happening at once.
Yes.
Right. We're fucking gods. We're eternal.
Yeah.
Right. And we didn't need to be vampires.
Right.
And here's the weight of this. Now,
great
right?
point. Yes. In that moment, we really were eternal. What we're creating, what we're in the presence of, is an eternal feeling.
And it came from life.
Yeah.
Right? It came from life and experience, not death and blood and shit.
And making my own choice.
Yes,
and maybe
right.
that choice leads to sin. So be it.
Yeah.
Even Sammy in that moment at the end is making a choice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I could live forever, but you know what? I've been all right, man. My life has been
I'll go
good.
out the good way.
I'm okay, man. I'm all right with this. I've made my peace with it ultimately. And yet, for all of his success, that's still the greatest night of his life.
Yeah.
I think that's such a great, And now what's interesting is, it's not the last scene, but it essentially is the last scene because this is very cool too. It's one of those I don't know if it's from doing Avenger movies, but it's just the part where the credits are rolling and you're like, all right, let's get. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, one more thing. Okay, and we can go. Nope,
we've been trained.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, we're not going anywhere. Forget it. Fuck it. But they do that sort of thing, and then there's that last scene where he is back in the car with Smoke and Stack as they're driving away. Yeah. And I heard an interesting theory that I thought was pretty cool. That him dead? That he died. And dying, he immediately goes back to what will be the best day of his life.
Right.
With Smoke, with Stack, his cousins, about to go off.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I thought that was, again, could it be? I don't know. You know what I mean? But again, those are ones where that might be a little more up in the air. But, the rest of it, I think, is all the things that we have tied into it.
A couple of things, too.
Please.
At that last scene, the club is named Perline.
That's right. Yes.
Right? And named after the girl that he loved also.
Absolutely.
And another little bit, Mary is dressed wearing like a checkerboard.
Right.
Something or other.
Yes.
That's the name of Buddy Guy's club.
That he used to own. Yes.
Yeah, the checker club. Yeah,
again, you can't even put a jacket on somebody unless it means something.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Like everything fucking, I love what everything has to mean something. I love that.
I do too, man. I think it's just that sort of detail. And again, it also adds to the rewatch of it.
Yes, of course.
Because you're like, was there something else I missed? And, it's just beautiful to see, like, again, one of the things that I watched, there's a couple of them, but like, the guy who usually does it, he's a white guy. He's Irish and English. And he's like, a lot of people have been wondering, like, how come I haven't done it yet? And he's like, well, I don't think when we have a person on our staff who's African American, I don't think the first one doing a video about this should be the white guy. So that's why I let him do it first. And he goes, and by the way, it's fantastic. You should watch it, which I did, and it's amazing. The guy really breaks it down in ways, like, again, understanding it through his own experience and understanding it through his knowledge of the history and so on and so forth. All these things. Everybody that worked on that film did it in that way. The house that Annie lived in, the production designer had seen it in a photograph. and wanted to duplicate it. You know.
Here's some like tidbits I found out.
Please.
This movie is the reason we're not going to get a Blade movie.
Yes, I heard a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess Ryan Coogler was up for that, and Marvel took too long, as Marvel does, and Warner Brothers was looking for a movie to be made, and this is where like Ryan Coogler's contract negotiation comes in. They were supposed to make this around the time of like COVID, kind of, right? But because they couldn't, obviously, for obvious reasons, he was able to negotiate the deal that he did, which somehow gets him paid first, and he gets to retain the rights after 25 years.
Yeah, Nolan had a little bit to do with this too.
Nolan, exactly. Yes, Nolan had a hand in this.
Not literally like a hand, but because of things that happened to Nolan, he thanks him in the movie.
He thanks him. Yes, yeah.
Essentially, when HBO Max did the whole, we're going to release it in the theater and in the day of on HBO Max.
Yep.
You know, essentially, I just said his name and now I can't remember it.
Chris Nolan.
Thank you. Pretty much told HBO and Warner Brothers to go fuck off, and he was like, "I quit. I'm done." And they were like, "Whoa!" They offered him a bunch of money, said he could have
use the editing bay,
which I thought, wow, that's a negotiation. Editing bay. All right. Anyway,
well, I guess what it is you get last cut.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I just thought maybe for film nerds, that's a really cool, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But anyway, I just thought it was an interesting thing that's like, oh my God, editing bay.
Cool. I can go in there now.
You had me at 10 million.
Right.
But anyway, he pretty much told them to go fuck themselves. So Warner Brothers was like, we got to find somebody.
Yes.
And they threw a shit ton of money at Ryan Coogler. And it's just like, that's why he thanks him at the end, essentially like, thanks for making me rich.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just, and I think this is once again what we've talked about when it comes to art in general. Letting an artist be the artist. Do your thing. Yeah. You do you. I think, number one, it's a fantastic film. Yeah. I'm not, this is not to take away from it.
Right.
I remember going into it thinking, okay, there's a lot of hype. I don't want to get too lost in it, and let's just take the film for what it is. But I think one of the reasons that people were so excited about it is also, and this is nothing against movies like this, is just to say, it's not part 4. It's not a superhero movie.
IP.
You know what I mean? It's like finally something original, but also is so in depth. There's so much going on. Like you just walked out, you go, "Oh yeah, this is what we go to the movies for again." Thank you, Ryan Coogler.
You go for the stories.
Yes,
right?
And again, just letting him cook. Just go, dude. You're in good hands. Just let Ryan Coogler do Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? At least it's the sense I get. And you just watch it, and it's just, it was just so very well done. And I always love movies that do this to me. My wife and I went to the theater. We saw it across the street from the theater is Outback Steakhouse. From the moment we sat down, that's all we could talk about. We're just talking about the movie. Remember the part where, do you think that means and any movie that sticks with me like that, I'm already like, okay, I'm in. Clearly I love this movie,
That's similarly like Amy and I, after we see something that we like, we'll read up on it right away.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what this mean? And like the fact that she kept throwing stuff at me, like, this is what that was, and like, did you know this, And I was like, cool. Like, I love this.
I love it.
Right? I did see a gentleman online. I'll actually name him because I doubt he's ever gonna listen to this. His name is Leif Jonker. He directed a movie like in the 90s called Darkness. And it's kind of a vampire movie. It's incredibly bloody, kind of lower budget horror movie. But he posted, and this is the only thing I ever saw regarding this movie.
Okay.
I did not come across the trailers. I knew Ryan Coogler had made a movie.
Okay.
And it was going to be great. But Mr. Yonkers had posted a video clip of himself right after seeing Sinners.
Okay.
In the clip, he's crying.
Oh, wow. And
he's straight up saying, this is by far the best American movie that's ever going to get made.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's high praise.
So I was like, you're all right, buddy, right? But then I'm thinking, like, I used to talk to this dude. He was the most pretentious to Yonker.
I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
He was the most pretentious dude. Like, if something just didn't meet any of his requirements,
interesting,
it's trash. Because he said that this was the best thing, I was like, man, it has to be fucking really good for this dude to come out basically out of retirement.
I got you.
And post online saying that this is the best movie. And not only that, but he's crying.
Interesting. Right? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw the preview very early on. And I was like, okay, Michael B. Jordan in, Coogler in.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what this is about. They seem to be vampires. I'm in. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, again, seeing the clips where he's with the machine gun or seeing the clip where he just looks absolutely frightened at something but you didn't see.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm in. I don't really care what this is about.
Yeah.
And then as it was getting hype and people were talking more and more about it, I was like, oh, well, maybe okay. Well, shit. Is that good, really?
Yeah.
Because it just seemed like, I think it'll be good, but I don't think it's going to be that. And yeah, I had to kind of push that aside when I went in because I was like, I don't want to ruin this film with my stupidity of thinking the overhypeness. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it was like 20 or 30 minutes in, and I was just like, this is fucking great. This is so good, man.
Here's a couple of things, too. When other people told me about this movie, depending on who they were, kind of told me a lot about what they focused on when telling me about this movie.
I know exactly. A girl at work, she was like, yeah, it was okay. I liked it. You know, I was like, well, nothing else. You could see Michael B. Jordan in a tank top. That had to be pretty nice.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, oh, yeah, definitely. I like that. Whereas another female at my work, she was like, no, I really, really liked it. She's like, but there's a few things here and there. So I tried to help explain a few things here and there. Like, oh, okay, yes, that makes, you know what I mean? So she was kind of getting more in depth. The one that kind of disappointed me, my daughter liked it. My son was like, I don't know. I felt like it was really good, and they just turned into a vampire movie. And
that's what I was going to get to. Some people, when they brought it up to me, they were like, oh, it's a cool vampire movie. Whereas other people were like, dude, this is about slavery. Yeah. It's about the struggle and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, yeah, it's a vampire movie.
There's so much stuff in there to just be like, you know, I don't know. Just to walk away and be like, you know, it'd be like watching the entire Star Wars catalog and being like, yeah, I don't know, Space Ninjas. You know, you're like, really?
There's a Wookiee in there.
That's
somewhere.
What you got out of this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. You know, and look, to each their own. People, you know, I don't know that the depth of all of this is for everyone. I don't think it is. I think you can watch it on a surface level and very much enjoy it. My son didn't hate it. Sure. I don't know. Maybe he didn't take in all that came with it. I
was about to that point. I was going to say also, like, you kind of get what you bring in.
I think so.
You know, like, sure. So if you're, I don't want to say like an observant person, but if you're open to other things other than what your regular life, you know, you'll pick up on stuff, right? Like, I mean,
like to your point. I mean, my daughter did say, she's like, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really good, but I know there's things that I probably didn't get. I'd like to, you know, I'd rather watch it with you because I imagine there's things you can explain to me. I wouldn't know who those people were. Or I didn't know what they were symbolizing. And I'm like, no, I totally understand that. You know, I think she's interested in checking it out and would probably watch some behind the scenes stuff to better understand it.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, to each their own. Look, we've talked about it before. You know, people who watch, you know, I don't know, what's the one with the aliens and they're going to the planet to kill them all. And, you know, and people go like, yeah, it's a cool sci-fi movie.
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers, like, well, actually, it's a tale about fascism. What? Yeah, you know, I mean, my son told me he works with a guy who that's my favorite movie of all time. And my son was like, oh, cool. Do you know it's like an allegory about fascism? And the guy was like, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
That's not, what are you talking
about? Bugs, dude.
It's just bugs. You're killing bugs. And it's just like, oh, okay, we're not watching the same movie. You know what I mean?
You know what I kind of like in this too?
Please.
Just pay attention to the riffs and not the lyrics.
Yeah. And
kind of, you know, this is kind of.
But I think that's the depth of this movie in a lot of ways. I think, you know, art can be, some people just like the way the Mona Lisa smiles. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And that's fine. It's not a judgment. It's just to say, like, I feel like the same way we see a lot of times about music.
Yeah.
You can love a riff. Great. You love a riff. Sure. But I want to know, where did the riff come from? Where did you guys form? How did you form? What are you into? You know, all that kind of stuff. Some people just watch a movie and go, I was entertained.
Sure.
You know, and that's enough for them. Yep. I'd be shocked. I don't know. I mean, I imagine there's somebody who didn't like it. I don't know how you could walk out and say, it wasn't really my thing. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe some MAGA asshole, but you know what I mean? It's just to say in general, like, you had to be entertained, didn't you?
That's the thing. Like, it's all that. Plus, it's fucking entertaining.
It just is fun, right?
It's a great story.
It is.
You know, it's. I mean, again, of course, there are vampires. There's the blues, and there's, you know, tales of slavery, and there is a love story.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Like, it's got everything.
Everything.
So, like, as far as you're into any of these things, you're gonna be entertained.
Absolutely.
Just check it out. It's Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld. Everyone else, Aaron mentioned,
Absolutely.
I don't have the notes.
No.
And even if I did, I can't see
no,
them.
believe me, some of these names, I mean, I think they're fantastic actors. But again, it's also nice to see something that actually did live up to the hype. Too.
Totally, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
I get it. I get why people are walking away from this going, holy shit. You know, people I know who have seen it 3 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right here.
Yeah, it's so well done. I mean, the visuals are great. Everything is just, it's just, like I said, it's just the love and care put into this thing. Thank you, Ryan Coogler. Thank you. You know, everybody does this whole like, stop making superhero movie. No, make a good movie. People go to theaters. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Just make a fucking good movie.
Yeah, I mean, he stopped making superhero movies and made this.
Yes.
You know, because he made Wakanda forever. He made Black Panther.
Absolutely.
And so here we go.
Yes.
This is what we get. Let the dude do the thing. You know?
Just let him cook. The
Yeah,
guy is clearly one of our great directors and writers, and his ideas are insane. So let him just do his thing.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy for him and continued success for him.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
Yeah.
So all that being said, what are you listening to?
Well, in the interim, since our last episode, obviously we lost 2 giants of music in this time. As I'm sure many of our listeners know, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys and Sly Stone of Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
Man, especially for their time, I don't know if you could find 2 people that may be more influential when you think about what they wrought through production, through song, and so forth. I mean, these guys, like, there are people today who are still taking from what they have put down on tape. And I myself, I won't pretend to be a giant Sly and the Family Stone fan. I do like some of his stuff. I definitely listen to some of his stuff, you know, just as a kind of reminder of how amazing that band really is. Yeah. But Brian Wilson, I am mass. I love the Beach Boys. I am a sucker for vocal harmonies, which they just bathe in, you know. Pet Sounds, as I said when he passed, it is not, the praise of Pet Sounds is not overhyped. That album is just fucking amazing. It's so ahead of its time. The influence on the Beatles and everybody else because of that is just, I could listen to that album over and over again. And the vulnerability that guy shows in a lot of his songwriting, like In My Room, like, God, it brings me to tears every time I hear that song. You know, God Only Knows. And I mean, it's just.
That's the one that Paul McCartney, I think, said is like the best song ever written.
Yeah. I mean. That's high praise. That's, and again, it's one of those ones. I mean, there was this competition, though. Obviously, there wasn't a real competition. Yeah. The Beatles clearly won. It's just to say, when they put out Rubber Soul, Brian Wilson was like, motherfucker. Yeah. All right, well, I got one for you. It's called Pet Sounds. And the Beatles went, son of a bitch. Okay, bar raised, you know. And when you think about just like, you know, how primitive, you know, production was at that time to achieve what he achieved and so forth. It's just, like I said, one of the greats all time.
I do have to admit, I'm a Sly Stone fan.
I got you.
You know,
they're amazing.
We had those like sets and tapes. And
right
shit,
on.
Like, when I was growing up, I was never a big Beach Boys guy.
I got you.
You know, when Brian Wilson passed, I did kind of sit back and listen to Pet Sounds and. What's the other one? Smile. Yeah, that's just more weirder kind of. See, and that's what I had heard. Like, but I guess a bunch of those were like around during Pet Sounds.
They were in Smile, as far as I understand it. Depending on what Smile you hear, you know, it got a little watered down, and you know, he was Van Dyke Park and him were really writing some. Again, for its time, very weird. Maybe now it doesn't sound as weird. You know what I mean? Like, you remember, Pet Sounds at that time was very weird, especially coming from the Beach Boys.
Of course.
You know, this is why that asshole Mike Love didn't particularly like it that much. You know?
Which, speaking of him, I did see that he RIP'd his beloved cousin.
And look, the love is... look, I think the guy's a bit of a jerk. As why
Didn't he sue Brian Wilson?
Did he?
Yeah.
How many times you want to talk about? You know what I mean? That was one of my favorite headlines. Was Brian God, you just said his name and I can't. Mike Love announces he will no longer sue Brian Wilson.
Oh, right.
You know, but there's no doubt there was love there. The guy cares about his money. He did. He did write some songs that he should have gotten credit for. There's no doubt about it.
Sure.
But nobody thinks the genius of the Beach Boys was Mike Love.
Oh, yeah.
We all know it was Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
You know, Mike Love's vocals are fantastic. They blend so well with all the other guys, on and on and on. But it's Brian Wilson. He is the heart behind that band. Always has been, always will be. It's just to say again, I love vocal harmonies. Beach Boys was something that just grew up with. My parents, my mother especially, very much liked them, so it was always in there. Sly and the Family Stone, not so much, but I have grown to enjoy them. And when you talk about the influence, also the multiculturalism of that band, and the sex. I mean, you had women playing trumpet, playing instruments in that band, along with white, black, Hispanic. Like this wasn't an accident. You know what I mean? There's a great documentary actually on Hulu right now about him. He's a troubled dude. Don't get me wrong. A lot of drugs, some problems there, and maybe not always great with women. But this guy from the time, he was a DJ in the Haight-Ashbury all the way up until starting the family stuff. Just the guy's influence is massive, and I don't think, for lots of reasons, obviously skin color probably being one of them, is I don't know if enough people know about Sly and the Family Stone, quite frankly, or more importantly, his influence. Look, Sly and the Family Stone, if you love Prince, thanks to Sly and the Family Stone.
Sly.
That's a huge influence, no doubt about it. But yeah, there's two legends to lose in that succession. That was a real bummer.
Is that kind of what took up your listening?
For the most part, especially the Beach Boys thing, it very much did. I wanted to kind of, in my own little way, pay tribute, if you will. Beyond that. I went down a big time rabbit hole of these reaction videos on YouTube where people react to songs that, according to them, they've never heard before. I don't know, especially with kind of all that's been going on, trying to find some kind of sunlight, something to kind of take your mind off of it a little bit. These were really warm in my heart, brought me to tears a couple times to watch people who seemingly don't know these songs and watch them just lose their minds to something they've never discovered. They're discovering for the first time. So that made me want to go back. Like, maybe I do need to listen to Master of Puppets. I think I will listen to Angel of Death. I think I will listen to some more Steely Dan or some Alice in Chains. And so it was just that influenced a lot of what I was listening to, mainly because it was just like, I'm almost rediscovering the songs in a way. I'm jealous of them because I can't hear it for the first time. You know what I mean? But it's just to watch these, especially younger people who could easily just go, who gives a shit? That's old man shit. You know what I mean? And to watch them listen to stuff like Pink Floyd and it does a change that they just go, wait, what? You know what I mean? And you go like, it's coming and yet they don't, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It was just something to kind of escape into, and I was just really like, it was blowing me away watching people watch Johnny Cash's "Hurt" for the first time. And people just bawling their eyes out. Like people literally like, I gotta pause this for a second. I gotta take it.
I'm getting verklempt.
Yeah, it was it was just really cool. So that influenced a lot of it. And the other two big ones that I was listening to a lot this week was a band called Deltron 3030. It's a hip hop group. Del the Funky Homo Sapien. And Dan the Automator, and I believe one other. I want to say Kid Koala. I could be wrong. I love Dan the Automator stuff. Del the Funky Homo Sapien, I would definitely recommend to anybody. He's very cool, very weird. Ice Cube's cousin. He's a very different kind of rapper. That is essentially like a concept album of a Deltron 3030 is who he is. He's like a robot, but he's going to compete in a rap battle and all this. It's very cool. Dan the Automator is amazing. Works a lot with like Mac Patton, people like that. A lot of production. He works also with the Gorillaz. So, those are places people might know him from. And the other one I listened to a lot was a thing called The Professionals, which one of my all-time favorite hip-hop producers, Madlib. I see his name on something, I immediately want to listen to it. And he did it with his brother, who goes by the name Ono. Brother. And they did, it's called The Professional. And it's just such a fucking kick-ass album. Cool. And again, I love, you put Madlib's name on it, I'm already going to give it a shot. I'd never heard his brother Ono before. I think he does have some other albums, but those two records, they were spinning quite a bit. But other than that, like I said, because of watching those videos, so I went back to some staples like Alice in Chains. System of a Down was another one that I kind of,
That's funny.
Well, one of those ones too, like, I don't know, it kind of hit me. Like, I've never been a big Rage guy. I love their politics. Totally hear what they're saying. I actually did try to listen to them this week, just under everything that's kind of going on, politically charged. And I realized that first album, really good. I like a lot of the songs on it. And then I tried the second album. I got about 3 songs in. I was like, man, this is garbage. I do not want to hear this.
I know a bunch of people like Rage. Mm-hmm. They have parts of like their music that I really love.
Oh, same, yeah.
And I'm just like,
People of the Sun, I think is a fucking amazing song, but the rest of that album,
I've always loved like their. I'm not a big fan of Tom Morello.
Yeah, the guitar works. I get it. It's cool, but their rhythm section, I think, is vastly underrated.
The bass on Rage Against the Machine is fucking killer.
They're
And
they're
drums,
so
God
in
damn.
sync, and they have to be to let the other two do their kind of thing. You know?
Yeah.
Oh,
I do like Zach's voice.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, I
for sure.
I
love it. Well, I've heard him in some. I know he's on the last Run the Jewels album.
Jewels, yeah.
And then he's on a great song with KRS-One called CIA. You know, he does a great verse, a couple of verses on that.
Yeah.
But I guess I just was struck that System of a Down in a lot of ways have the same political views. Their just songs are just better for me anyway. I just like the songs better, and it's like, okay, I get the same message. I just listen to back and I like them better, you know. And
Yeah.
I like their silliness that they add to it.
that's,
you know,
that's one of those bands too. Like my brother introduced them to our household,
right on.
and I was like, I remember this band being way different, you know, because at one point they were playing maybe a little bit more akin to like death metal, grindcore.
I mean, they have elements of stuff like that. I mean, there's
Well, I mean,
actually,
like
think people
way
call it
back
new
in the
metal.
day,
Yeah. I got you.
When they were playing shows with like Bad Acid
Yeah.
Trip in North Hollywood and
Yeah.
stuff. And my brother got a hold of that first album, and he's actually in one of the videos.
Oh,
as
cool.
Well. Yeah. But that's another band I love their politics, except for the drummers, because he's a fucking MAGA conservative.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Well,
I,
and I guess he's not like the only one, but the other person who might be keeps it under wraps.
I mean, certainly he doesn't, and that
He
it just-
doesn't,
It
yeah.
blows my
He's-
mind because it's just like, are you listening to the band?
Yeah, right. I like, dude, the guy who wrote a lot of these lyrics is 6 feet in front of you.
Well, I mean,
Right? Like,
that's
is that none of that?
We live in a fascist nation. He yells, screaming, and the drummer's just going, "Yeah, we do."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, but you voted for the fascist. Anyway, yeah. I just, for me, the music is. I always dug them. I love the kind of bounce and weirdness to them.
Yeah.
I love Serge's vocals, and again, the political stance almost is like, I guess too. It feels like sometimes they're a little more blatant about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then maybe Rage sometimes is a little, you know, I can understand maybe hearing like some of those who want forces are the same to burn crosses, and you just kind of go, huh? And it's like, oh, forces, okay, yeah. You know, but where, you know, anyways, just to say, enjoyed some System of a Down. That was another one that people watched, and I saw strangers just go, oh my God, this is great, you know? So, anything else for yourself?
Yeah. So I actually listened to a bunch of Nas albums.
Oh, right on.
I always liked them.
Yeah.
But like at some point, it got maybe a little bit too popular.
Oh, well, I
Right?
mean, he gets, to me, after God's Son,
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
the
of
one I
those
was
are-
like going back and forth with.
Yeah, a lot of those are after God's Son. I think lately he's been doing some great ones, Magic, and it's like 1, 2, and 3, and there's another one that's 1, 2, and 3. Those I really like.
Yeah.
But yeah, after God's Son, he
Godson
really
is the one. Yeah. that's-
Nostradamus has some moments, but like I Am, Illmatic is just
Yeah.
those are amazing. But yeah.
Yeah.
Right
So I
on.
listened to him. A band from like the 90s that used to tour with Neurosis.
Oh.
A band called Logical Nonsense out of New Mexico.
All right, on.
They're all kind of like native indigenous folks,
Oh, interesting.
but it's like a hardcore punk vibe, like in the
Okay.
music. When you listen to it, you actually hear a lot of Neurosis in it.
Okay,
I don't know if one came before the other,
I gotcha.
but the fact that they were touring, I was like, man, that would have been a great fucking lineup.
Oh yeah,
This
no.
was during the Through Silver and Blood days.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's super aggressive, you know, like the music itself is heavy, but it's very hardcore punk,
Interesting.
but like the heavier aspect of
Okay.
that. Yeah, so that was awesome. And maybe in preparation for a show that's happening in October, I started listening to Sepultura, which
yeah, well, can't go wrong with that.
Sepultura, Max Cavalera is a beloved figure in
Oh,
the
fuck yeah.
rehearsal room
Absolutely.
hallways. Here at rehearsal room headquarters,
Yes.
we love everything Max. So yeah, I listened to all Sepultura, Nail Bomb,
Nice.
Cavalera Conspiracy,
Nice.
Soulfly. Yeah, anything I can get with Cavalera on there.
I fucking love me some Max, man.
Yeah, man, it was so fucking good. In
Continued
fact,
success for him and his brother. I'm
him
so
and
happy
his brother.
that they
I know
continue.
he's got that new band, Go Ahead and Die,
Yeah.
which just recently played here. Yeah, it's what else can you expect? You know, it's fucking great. From
To
first,
do Chaos AD, I'm so excited to hear it. I can't.
Oh yeah. I'm so fucking ready for that to happen.
That was one. There was a reaction was Roots. People reacting to that, and the other one. Wow, what's the one? Attitude.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Fuck yeah.
when he's up there. It's the one from Ozfest that I remember.
Nice.
He's playing the thing, and then
Yeah.
people just like, is he playing a gourd? What is that?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. Dude.
Yeah. No, I all things Max. You and I, we were on the same page. That, as far as I'm concerned, all Max Sepultura is amazing Sepultura. I just fuck. They're so important. It's so much of what I ever listened to. They were really that band, man.
I also think like, I know they get the recognition that they deserve, right?
But
But sometimes,
brother,
it feels like they're slipping through your fucking fingers because
I do wonder, and I know there are people, even some who listen. I do wonder if they are hurt by the continuation once Max left. Which is to say, does that take away why we don't talk about them enough? When you think about what Arise and Beneath, even if you don't want to do the Chaos thing because it's groove and Roots is new metal, fine. Arise and Beneath alone cements them. They're done. Those are such amazing records, and I do wonder. You're right. It feels like I hesitate to say underrated.
yeah,
But you do feel like when we talk about the great metal bands of all time, not everybody mentions Sepultura.
yeah, it's weird because like they put out banger fucking albums in the past.
Oh.
They still put out fucking the fact that they re-recorded their old stuff, and it's to me, in my humblest opinion,
No.
Us here,
Yes.
absolutely fucking love it.
People and a lot of people were like, I don't know, and then heard it and went, oh, okay, we're good. We're good.
It's like maybe the one instance where like the redoing of it is better than the original.
Yeah,
right?
to some degree.
Like George Lucas saw this and he was like, oh yeah, I fucked up, right? Like,
Okay, Guido shot first.
yeah.
Or can. Sorry.
Yeah, so it was like, man, what is it about this band that just, I started thinking maybe when they went into Soulfly, everybody else was inundated with like the new metal type stuff.
Yeah.
And they got lost in the mix there too.
I mean, they said, look, and again, this could be a whole episode, really. Losing your lead singer is never an easy thing for any band. Max was not just their lead singer.
He was like the attitude, the personality.
He was Sepultura.
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways. I maybe not for everybody. You know what I mean? Look, I feel that way about Alice in Chains, that it was like, once Lane was dead, I'm sorry. I know the other guy wrote a lot of the music. I know he was probably the engine behind it.
Yeah.
But I just felt like the band was over once Lane was gone. And yet there are others who are like, you're fucking crazy. These new Alice in Chains albums, fine. Hey, to each their own. Have at it.
Yeah.
I just think, when you lose your lead singer and he is as charismatic, I think the other part is, and we've talked about this, again, Max could easily rest on laurels and just be like, hey, I got Sepultura, I got Soulfly, I'm good here.
Yeah.
Yet every time he is interviewed, he is constantly talking about new bands that he's into.
Yes.
I can remember an interview with him in a magazine where they, it's one of those ones where like, hey, we give you 5 CDs and you tell us what you think about them.
Yeah.
And I just remember everything he played. They were like, Max doesn't like anything we're giving him. He keeps putting on the first Hatebreed album.
Yeah.
His love of Nails.
Yep.
Before they were really this giant thing, right? He was wearing the shirts. He had the patch. He's telling people, nails. Like, he could easily go ahead and die. He's an old man. He doesn't need to do go ahead and die.
Nope.
But he wants to because this is the music. He's living. I have said this before. I will say it again. I think he is underground Ozzy in a lot of ways. His love of the fans, his love of this music, his love of this lifestyle, it's apparent in everything he does and everything he wants. I don't say this is to brag, just to say, getting you the happy birthday from him,
Yes.
Like, dude, whatever that app is where you pay people, famous people.
Cameo.
Cameo. I mean, when I saw the guy charged like $40.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking the fucking jack off who's like the 35th member of the Wu-Tang Clan charges $400.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, and yet this guy to be so humble to be like $40, and I will not only, I mean, granted, I gave him all the information, but still saying to you, said happy birthday in English and or Portuguese, and then just like. What a fucking
the
amazing
Roots riff
yes!
when he's singing "Happy Birthday."
Like, I mean, I just think all those things endure you to people, and you do wonder, like, maybe that's that alone should bring him into a higher status. And yet, I mean, you feel the love when we saw him, right? Both times we've seen it. Everybody there, just it's oozing, and especially to see the brothers unite again.
Oh hell
was just amazing for everybody.
I mean, one of the perhaps the more memorable concerts from my youth. I mean, I had a bunch of them. But one of them was Prong, Pantera, and Sepultura.
Yes, sir.
Which, walking into, what was it, Irvine Meadows?
Yep.
Walking into Irvine Meadows and... Glen Helen. Yeah, sorry. And Sepultura's on stage already. My friend and I looked at each other and we're like, all right, I'll see you after the show. Like, we'll find each other. But yeah, it was fucking great going back and listening to every song and just being like, man, this is still fucking good.
Every song hits. It's just they're amazing. Yeah. Again, we could do 3 hours on Sepultura and I would never get tired of it.
One day we will.
Please, we do.
One day we will for one of those album deep dives.
They're an amazing band. Thank you, Max. I'm again one of those artists where I'm glad I live in a time in which I can say I got to hear Sepultura.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, guys, thank you guys for spending time with us.
Absolutely.
If anyone's interested, let us know what you thought of Sinners,
please,
or any of the music that we discussed. But yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Right on.
Hey, folks. Thank you so much for checking out the rehearsal room. We super appreciate you spending time with us. If you have any questions, comments, or want to yell at us for any of the takes we've expressed in any of these episodes, you can contact us by emailing us at therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. All one word, therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and now on Blue Sky. Also, if you have any recommendations for any movies or any bands you might want us to check out and give a listen to, feel free to send those in. We always accept submissions. Or if you have any shows coming up that you feel we might be interested in checking out, let us know and we'll give you guys a shout out. But thank you for checking us out, and we'll catch you next time.